Well, hey, it's time for Ask the Tech Guys. I'm Leo Laporte. Coming up, I'm going to show you what some are considering the greatest video game of all time, and it just came out on Friday.
And I'm Micah Sargent, and we are going to talk about a big problem. It's lithium-ion batteries on airplanes.
And then Sam Abul Samad, our car guy, tells us why cars are better than ever, except for this one car from Vietnam, which you really don't want to buy. It's all coming up next on Ask the Tech Guys.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Ask the Tech Guys with Micah Sargent and Leo Laporte, episode 1974, recorded Sunday, May 14th, 2023, Mother's Day. I'm a Ganoob. This episode of Ask the Tech Guys is brought to you by Thinkst Canary. Detect attackers on your network while avoiding irritating false alarms. Get the alerts that matter. For 10% off and a 60-day money-back guarantee, go to canary.tools/twit and enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box. And by Drata. Security professionals often undergo the manual task of collecting evidence. With Drata, companies can complete audits, monitor controls, and expand security assurance efforts to scale. Say goodbye to manual evidence collection. Hello to automation, all done at Drata speed. Visit drata.com/twit to get a demo and 10% off implementation. And by us. As an ad-supported network, we're always looking for new partners with products and services that will benefit our audience. With our tailored host-read ads, you'll get an authentic and proper introduction to your brand with every ad read. Visit twit.tv/advertise and launch your campaign today. Well, hey, how are you today? It's time for
Ask the Tech Guys.
Again, back to the plural. Thank you for coming home.
Yes, I'm happy to be home.
We missed you last week.
Did you? How was that?
You know, it was harder than I thought because I thought, oh, this is good. This will be easy. This is like
What you've
doing the
done for
old
years.
radio show. It's not. It's hard. So thank you. Stay here. Don't go on any more vacation.
I'm buckled in now.
I am wearing my, somebody emailed me, said, whatever happened to those shoes you used to wear on the screensavers, the flame shoes?
Those
so
are
I'm wearing
fancy.
aren't they nice? The flame shoes and, of course, funny socks as you are wearing.
Are those custom made, those flame shoes?
No, I got them down here. There's a local, it's still here store. I got them. So this week was the 25th anniversary of Tech TV's launch in May 1998. And I got these then. So these 25 years ago.
Wow.
They're kind
Still
of
kicking.
Doc Martens. That store is still there. It's called Stink.
How's it spelled?
You wouldn't think.
Like it sounds?
Yeah. With a name like Stink, STINQUE.
You never know.
It's just like it sounds. You wouldn't think with that name that would be still in business 25 years later, but no, it is.
Is it a shoe store specifically?
No, it's all kinds of hip gear for youngins.
Oh, hip gear for cool cats.
I was a little younger 25 years ago. Still not a youngin'. I was older than you 25 years ago. So anyway, yeah, I thought I'd break these out, and then I have another pair that's black and white that are my wedding shoes.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to Ask the Tech Guys. I'm Leo Laporte,
And I'm Micah Sargent.
and we're going to answer your questions. Still don't have a phone number. I'm sorry. So that's probably by next week.
Yeah, it's in testing now.
We're working
This is
on
exciting. We've got a number on the way.
it. So for the time being, call.twit.tv. If you do that on your phone, on your browser, or you do it on a computer on your browser, it will launch Zoom if you have it. If not, you can do it in the browser, and it'll make a call to us, and we will put you in our Zoom room, and we'll pick you up. Raise your hand if you have a question. We look for people's hands raised. Call.twit.tv, and we do have some emails from Ask, our website, our email address, which is ATG, or Ask the Tech Guys at twit.tv. Either one will work. Before you get to your sermonette, I just want to say Twitter has a new CEO, Linda Yaccarino. You think I'm joking?
No, I don't.
Elon has nominated, and since he owns it, I guess it's all it takes.
That's all he has to do.
Has nominated the former head of advertising at NBC Universal, Linda Yaccarino. She quit on Friday, like that, and she'll be starting. Elon says in the next 6 weeks. She put together all of the different companies, NBC Universal, which is owned by Comcast, has been accreting all these TV companies. She took all the sales divisions of Bravo, Peacock, USA, Sci-Fi, NBC, Universal, put them all, smooshed them all into a giant ball and made a lot of money for NBC Universal Comcast. So I think Elon's hoping she'll do the same for Twitter. Goodness knows they need to. And Elon says, I'll still run the technical side of it, and all the dad jokes will still be on me.
Oh,
I'll continue.
Good. I'm glad he can continue his dad jokes.
Now, you saw something which I saw as well that kind of shocked me.
Yeah, I was surprised that about once a week in the United States, there is a lithium-ion incident on an airplane, a battery fire of some sort that takes place with lithium batteries. There are a few sort of harrowing tales in this piece from CBS News where there are people who were talking about how I was just sitting on the plane and suddenly there was smoke in the plane.
Yeah,
and I thought,
that's scary.
Surely no one's smoking on this plane.
Yeah.
No, it ended up being a lithium-ion battery.
FAA says the number of lithium-ion incidents has risen 42% in the last 5 years. 15 years. And I think that because we're all carrying laptops and stuff, they did change the rules, probably since the last time you were on an airplane, since you don't fly very often.
Yeah,
and now you
definitely
know why,
since then, yeah.
that you can't put these in your luggage and check it. You have to bring it on the plane.
Yeah.
And that's so that if something goes wrong, they can do something about it. The problem with these fires is they're self-contained. They create their own oxygen.
Yep.
So you can't just smother them.
No, that's the biggest problem I think that we're seeing, and it ends up being because, okay, so the way that this works, the way that every airline is supposed to do this is as you are going to get on the plane, you are meant to tell them, I have this kind of issue.
Kidding.
I have some sort of lithium-ion battery.
You have to tell them?
Yes, because
everybody has one.
Right. And it's because the pilot is supposed to be told about it so that they're just aware of this, right? Well, the CBS News did a little investigation. They looked at all of the data, and about 64% of the time, the pilot was not aware of the fact that people had lithium-ion
No one's ever asked
batteries.
me. But I have to tell you, because everybody has a smartphone.
Yes, we
it
all
would just be
have
everybody
lithium-ion.
saying, I got one.
Yeah, I got one.
So I think the pilot can safely assume every single person on the plane has a lithium-ion battery.
But you know where they're seeing most of the issue?
Where? Not in the phones.
Vaping.
Yeah.
And this is what's interesting to me, because when I'm reading through this, and the first thing I'm thinking is, are these those $4 ridiculous devices that you're USB chargers that you're buying at a gas station on the way to the airport? What is causing this issue? Because I've never, other than the one smartphone, the Samsung phone, that of course had this issue that you didn't have to be on an airplane for it to happen. There's not been this sort of ongoing story about all of these smartphones suddenly bursting into flames. And so if that hasn't been the case, where is this coming from? There are so many different battery chargers that people can buy that cost very little money, that aren't made up to the specs that they should be. And I wonder if that's where we're seeing most of this problem.
I mean, the thing is, besides that, we're carrying phones, we're carrying laptops, we're carrying tablets. I carry cameras, so I have my camera batteries. I mean, I carry probably half dozen lithium-ion batteries on, but well-made ones don't usually burst.
Doesn't seem to be an issue.
Although, nowadays they say if you drop your phone or your AirPod, my earbuds have everything I have. My earbuds
has lithium-ion.
If you drop one of those into the seat, do not move the seat to try to find it, because you could crush it and cause a fire. They say get the flight attendant come on over. Anyway, one a week. When I first saw this, I thought, oh, this is your typical mainstream media scare story. Like, how often? But one a week is a lot.
That is a lot. And they did this. That's one of the good things, I guess, about the airline system, is that there is so much data that is recorded. So they were able to independently go and verify this through the FAA. And this it's called a runaway thermal event. And this happens in lithium-ion batteries, where once one thing goes wrong, the heat builds so quickly, and every single sort of system within the battery makes it even hotter and hotter and hotter until you get that issue where the fire catches. And as we've talked about, it's supplying its own oxygen. So, of course, individuals don't have much that they can do in terms of, we're not all carrying sand traps with us whenever we're going places. Like, this is the bag. But yes, there actually is training that a lot of these airlines are doing specifically for this, to make sure that the device gets smothered. And when they've done this research, because CBS News also spoke to a university that's doing research specifically about lithium-ion batteries in devices, they had several instances of the lithium-ion device being underneath the water and still able to catch fire.
Because it's producing its own oxygen.
Yep.
I learned something. The Department of Transportation, DOT, has a department called the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Administration.
Okay.
Yeah. And PHMSA, this is where the data comes from March 2018 through March 2023, so 5 years, there were 5,319 incidents on airplanes. That includes cargo planes. And 700 of them occurred on passenger planes. That's one every 2.5 days. So I don't know what the upshot of this is. If you can leave it behind, do.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a cheap vape pen.
Yes, that. I would be mortified if that ended up causing an issue for everybody on the plane. I remember I was going on a plane, and at the time that luggage had just started coming out where it had a built-in battery pack. And the airline was saying, if you have luggage that has a battery pack, you need to remove it from the luggage. Even though that luggage was going on the plane with me, they didn't want it in the overhead bin. And I got up there.
So how are you supposed to take it?
So you're
supposed to hold it out in front of you the whole time?
No, they had a little key that you could use that would let you unscrew it, and then you could take but I didn't know that they were going to do that, and I didn't have the key with me. I literally had to break my luggage. It was the only way they'd let me get on the plane, because I had the luggage that had the battery pack installed. I had to take it out of the luggage and keep it in my bag beneath my chair. So I ended up having to break my luggage in order to get on the plane.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it was not fun.
Yeah, wow. Anyway, I guess that's the story.
Yeah, there's not much to it.
I don't know what you can say about it. It just confirms why Mike, I did not go home for Mother's Day.
Yeah. This is why I don't fly.
Yeah. But yeah, just something to be aware of. All of a sudden you notice whenever you get a package that has a battery in it, it's got a big sticker on it that says this may not be flown. It has to be ground transport and stuff. I guess we're just becoming aware of these. And of course, when those hoverboards were big,
oh my
there
goodness,
were a number of hoverboard fires.
Because they had to have so many batteries, one right after the other too. So
I have giant lithium-ion batteries in my garage. We got Micah, the plane guy from Maine, on the line. He's an aviation expert.
Yeah.
Hi, Micah, the other Micah. It's good to talk to you. He does the airline pilot guy podcast. Is that it, Micah?
No, I'm good friends with the airline pilot guy, but we do the Airplane Geeks podcast. That's the one that I'm part of.
So were you aware of this whole issue?
Very aware of it. And what's going on, Micah, what you said is not exactly correct.
Okay.
They definitely ask you if your checked bags have a lithium-ion battery in it, as you're not allowed to check them. But they don't ask people going on a plane. Now, I have, for example, T-Mobile came out with the Uncarrier carry-on, and it has a lithium-ion battery built into it to charge your phone. And it's a great piece of luggage, I've got to say. But you can, because you're carrying that on, that's fine. You can bring that with you and it's not a problem. But if I were to check that, I would absolutely have to remove that lithium-ion battery, because on the planes, most aircraft, most airlines, in fact, I think all of them are supposed to have battery bags. So if there's a fire, they take the whole device, they put it in the bag, they zip it up, and they fill it with a water bottle. And they won't put it out, but it'll keep it under control so that it's not going to cause any more difficulty. But they are, like you said, Leo, they definitely tell you that if your phone falls into your seat, don't lower the seat, don't raise the seat, call somebody and have somebody else fetch it out. Because as you know, if you bend a phone, if you bend those devices, the battery cracks, you're in trouble. It's
the worst thing you can do is
away.
Puncture a lithium-ion battery, because then you're going to have heat and flame, and often heat and flame, especially in an enclosed area, causes explosion, and that's not good. Plus, there's a ton of toxic crap inside those batteries you don't want to be breathing. Well, I'm glad you were there to help. Is that why you called in, just to give us an update on that?
That's exactly why I called. I was listening and I heard it. And you don't have Johnny on every week to be able to help you with these things. And he doesn't. He has kids. He doesn't have time to listen. So I figured I'd call in and see if I could
Micah,
help.
tell me about your hat. What's that hat?
Oh, it's the G450 hat. It's a Challenger G450, one of the most marvelous private aircraft around. And if you're going to charter an aircraft, certainly get one of those. But expect to pay, $20,000 an hour.
It's a private jet.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I know a G6 because there was a song, but this is like a more recent, right? Wasn't that
Yeah,
song?
that
like
was
a
a song.
G6? This is a later Gulfstream, I take it.
Right, absolutely. And you probably remember the Learjet, that was invented by Mr. Lear, the same man that brought us the 8-track tape.
Yeah. What? Really? I did not know that.
Oh, yes. Mr. Lear invented the 8-track tape and then went on and created the Learjet.
Lear, first name 8-track Lear.
I think it was his middle name.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Joey 8-track Lear, as they called him.
8-track Lear.
Hey, thank you, Micah.
Thanks so much.
The bag
so much.
is a great bit of additional information. So they are supposed to have something just in case. So if you do see smoke coming out of the overhead or out of your pocket, call the flight attendant and say, "Hey, get that bag because this is bad."
That's what those call buttons are for. They're for emergencies. They're not to be pressed to say, "I want another ginger ale."
Oh,
They're
that's
pressed
good to
for
know.
emergencies.
Okay, good. Yeah, I never press it.
That button is not supposed to just be used to. I've seen people just.
It's not waitress. A waitress.
It's an emergency
It's
button.
for emergencies.
That's really what it's there for. And they have bags put in it big enough to put, your whole laptop in there. That's how they do it. So
that's okay. You're reassured us.
Yeah, that
then.
makes us feel better.
Yeah. I don't have to worry about the pipeline and
Where was that in the piece, CBS News?
CBS. Thank you, Micah.
Thank you.
have a great show.
You too. Or we'll have a great day. You have a great show.
Yeah, when you have your next show, have a great show.
He has an excellent show if you're
Airplane Geeks podcast.
Airplanes. I always get the name wrong for some reason. Yes, Neander Bear in our IRC says, and I have this too. We have the away luggage that has I have an away as well.
That's what mine was an away.
Yeah.
And they made me take the battery thing out.
Yeah. It has a removable battery. The idea, and then you could check it if you remove the battery.
Yeah.
Or use it as a carry-on. And
Exactly.
It's designed to be a carry-on.
And yes, Away literally sends you this little thing you can put on your keychain, and it's got a screwdriver on one end, and it's all TSA approved, so you can easily undo it. I didn't know that I was going to have to take out the battery though, so I didn't bring that little keychain device.
Yeah, and
that's why I ended up having to break
said
mine.
he also got yelled at because he didn't remove the battery from the piece of luggage you try to get on with.
Yeah, when one is being told no, it often feels like one is being yelled at.
No. N-O. Call.twit.tv. Sam Abul Samid is coming up in just a little bit, but let's take some more calls. Eric is on the line. I like calls. I want to get more on. Hello, Eric. Where are you calling from today? I like calls. Oh,
got a little bit of it.
I never thought I'd have to say this. Turn your radio down. There he is. Hey, Eric, where are you calling from?
I'm from Wisconsin.
Nice. Welcome. What can we do for you?
Question. I don't mean a question, but an inquiry.
Yeah.
So you've got cellular antennas, radios in your watches, phones, tablets.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Why don't they have, I know there's additions, but why don't they have the radios in laptops?
It's funny. They used to do that more commonly. Mm-hmm. We've had this conversation on Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott. The early Surfaces, for instance, did have cellular radios in there. You can still, when you buy an iPad, you have a choice. It's $129 more. Put a cellular radio in there. But for some reason, I think my guess is that, and you still, by the way, can find an occasional laptop with a cellular built in. My guess, though, is that most people have a smartphone that they can hotspot. So the sales for the cellular-enabled laptops went down because people said, well, I don't need to do that. I just turn on my hotspot when I am going to use it and use it on my phone. And
it adds a considerable expense. So having to pay for the laptop with that extra thing in it whenever there's a way to do it without having to pay that extra, I think that's why another reason why people have not.
You have to put in another radio, another card. It's and so on an iPad it's $129. I think it's even more on laptops, a few $100. So most people just say for the amount I'm going to use it. You can still go out and find. In fact, I think Microsoft just released. I seem to remember a Surface that has cellular, maybe the Surface Go that has cellular built in. But it is less common. Yeah, that's why, I think, in answer to your question. Yeah. Would you use it if you had such a thing?
I would.
Yeah.
I don't hotspot because it's an additional fee for my service.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I've got unlimited, but
You have to pay an extra $10 a
still
month.
limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, 30. It'd be another
Wow.
30.
The other thing is,
So-
in my opinion, hotspotting is not as fast as a built-in cellular modem would be. So I do when I always buy it in the iPad, and I take my iPad. And then I know Lenovo, it's often a BTO, a build-to-order option on the Lenovo laptops. Those are kind of business-focused laptops, and you can add a cellular modem there. I don't know exactly what the cost is. Hey, it's good to talk to you. Thanks for calling, Eric.
Yeah, great question.
Thanks, Leo. Thanks,
Yeah,
Michael.
I'm glad you asked, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. More people you can ask. Queries are okay. Doesn't have to be a question. Can be a
A
query.
thought experiment, right?
A thought experiment. I got to take Bruce because I just love the mustache.
Oh my goodness, right?
Isn't that amazing?
Magnificent.
I just have to put him on the air.
Bruce the Magnificent.
Bruce the Magnificent. Where are you calling from? Unmute your microphone and turn on your camera unless you don't want us to see your beautiful. Okay, now we can hear you. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada,
Look at this.
where dreams are killed.
Oh. Where dreams might be killed, but glorious mustaches are not. They thrive.
Do you live in town, or do you live in Henderson, or on the outskirts?
No, I'm on the east side,
Nice.
far east side of Boulder Highway.
Lisa and I kind of thought for a long time of retiring there
Mhm.
because there's always a
Always something
party.
to do, right?
There's always something to do. Yeah, I remember.
And it's
Go
better
ahead.
and better with the F1 and coming and Super Bowl coming. It's going to be an amazing town for the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only that, I saw that the Oakland A's, our own Oakland A's baseball team, is negotiating to tear down the Tropicana and build another baseball stadium there. So you've got the Raiders, and you're going to have the A's. We're going. Lisa and I are coming out in November for the F1 race. We're very excited about that.
And we got our Golden Knights that are going
The
for the
Golden
Western
Knights?
Conference
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah. What can we do for you, Bruce?
Okay, I have a MacBook Pro 2013 that Apple has, in their great wisdom, told me you can't get any more updates for. So my question is, I want to either turn it into a Windows machine or into a Linux machine. And if I turn it into Linux, what is the best distro for a MacBook hardware?
I definitely think don't go Windows.
I don't think you
I don't know if
can
you
go
can,
Windows.
right?
Yeah.
So definitely want to go Linux. But as far as now, whenever you say going from a Mac to Linux, do you mean in terms of the one that
You'd have
feels
to
the most
wipe-
familiar to you?
You'd
or
have
do
to
you,
wipe the drive.
right. I'm just
And-
curious if he wants one that works well on the Mac, or if you're just wanting one that will feel more familiar coming from Mac OS.
I want something a distro that will handle the Mac hardware the
best.
easiest.
Mhm.
Before we try that, there is a way to get an update. So you want to put, and I don't blame you. You want to put a more recent version of Mac OS in your system so it's secure and so forth. And I don't blame you at all for that. But Apple says, "Oh, that 2013, we don't support that." Nevertheless, lots of people do it,
Mhm.
and honestly, the hardware is good enough to do it. So there is a I don't know, a hack, I guess is what you would call
Yeah,
it, kind of a
that's
hack.
fair.
Do you remember what the
A
name of it is?
workaround. I wish. Okay, I thought you had it.
I can't remember.
Let's see if
Open Core
there it is.
Legacy Patcher. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Open Core Legacy. Now you know why neither Mike and I can remember that every time.
Such a
But
long
if you
name.
Google Open Core Legacy Patcher, it works. There are some downsides to it. Any update Apple pushes out is potentially going to remove it, so you have to be careful about updates. But if you go to the forums where they talk about the Open Core Legacy Patcher, you'll see them warning, okay, don't do this one, or here's how you do it, but lots of people
Mhm.
are running the latest version. What is the latest version? I can never remember.
macOS Ventura.
Ventura.
Yeah.
Are running Ventura on 2013 Macs. Fine, just fine, right? So Apple's concern, I understand, you might say, well, they just want you to buy a new Mac. I think their concern is it won't run as well
as they want it to.
Yeah.
And then there would be complaints
but you
about
can.
that.
Now, when it comes to Linux, which is not a bad idea, it is a little tricky getting Linux to run on a Mac. And here's why. Most PCs are using standard hardware. So the drivers exist, the Linux drivers exist, the people who write, Linux is all done by enthusiasts for the most part. So enthusiasts have a Lenovo or a Dell or an HP. So they have hardware support for everything in those computers. Because Apple's stuff is completely proprietary, they use some stock parts, but a lot of them they don't. Most Linuxes don't run perfectly on a Mac. There's only one designed for the M1, for instance. So if you're using a modern, you're not obviously, but you're using an Intel Mac, so it's a little easier. But there's only one. There's Asahi Linux. It's the only Linux that will run on the Apple Silicon, and it doesn't run that well. For a Mac, I think the ones that look the most Mac-ish, Elementary OS is a good one. Budgie is a good one. But what you probably want to do, what I would recommend is Googling your particular Mac model, and down to the model number, the M,9134, and Linux, and see. There'll be pages where people have put up a blog post and have said, so I have this Mac and it took me this and I did this and I had to do that and I had to get this driver, because there will be some tweaking you'll have to do to any generic Linux version to get it to work. Your trackpad, the camera, all of those things, those proprietary things that Apple uses. So, Elementary OS, I don't even know if I think they went out of business.
And while you're looking through that, I just had that realization. You do have an Intel Mac, which means Boot Camp would allow you to install Windows if you wanted to. I don't think that either Leo or myself recommend that you install Windows, but because you've got that older Mac, it does have the ability to use Boot Camp to install Windows on it.
That's a good point. Oh, I didn't even. You're right. You could Boot Camp it. What was I thinking? So
because I have a old Windows 7 installed, so I have a activation number.
Yeah, there, well, absolutely. And if you have 7, you can go to 10 for free. So okay. So you could do that. This is Elementary OS. It's still around. Elementary.io. You can see it looks a lot like a Mac. They have a dock and all of that, but it's not going to be exactly the same. If you're more comfortable with Windows, maybe that's the way to go. And the reason Boot Camp works is because Apple provides the drivers for their proprietary hardware.
Well, that's why that was one of my thoughts. I don't want to go to Windows, but if it's the easier way to be able to use my perfectly good laptop.
Right. So
that's the only reason why I hate Apple is because I'm on fixed income. I can't afford to go spend $1,100 to buy a MacBook Air. I need to be able to use the equipment I have.
It's not just Apple. I mean, everybody does this. Microsoft says we won't install
Windows 11
on an older machine,
even though it could.
Even Google Chromebooks, after a certain number of years, they say, well, we're not going to update. It's just update. This is just the way of the world. I'm sad to say. I mean, I understand. Hate's a strong word. Dislike, resent, peeved, all of them would be appropriate. So there's 3 choices. You've got the core boot, which will let you install Ventura. Might be worth a try anyway. I forgot about Boot Camp, because one of the reasons is because Boot Camp's gone. Apple's no longer supporting it on Apple Silicon. Boot Camp, and then there are a number of Linux operating systems that would work just fine. It's going to be up to you and your preference and how much fussing and fighting you want to do with it. Boot Camp would be the easiest.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're wanting to do the least amount of fussing and fighting, that's going to be Boot Camp.
Yeah.
And then probably Linux, and then Open Core Legacy Patcher.
Yeah. I appreciate
one more thing
I
want to ask.
Sure, Bruce.
You think with all the ransomware that we've had in the last few years that we're getting more and more up to Daemon from
Daniel Suarez is Daemon?
Yeah,
sort of.
Do you think that we're getting closer to that than we'd like to?
Yeah, Daniel, who's a great friend, and I love Daniel, He writes the most dangerous kind of science fiction, which is near future sci-fi. Because, you could, if you write something that's 1,000 years in the future, you can't be proven wrong. But he's writing 20, 30 years. And so far, he's been pretty right on. So I think he's very good at predicting the future. I think we are getting close to that. Here's the good news about ransomware. They're no longer targeting you and me. You might get hit in the splashback, but really they're going after companies where there's some deep pockets and they can make more money. So as individuals, I don't think we have to worry about ransomware so much.
Yeah.
But boy, if I worry about it all the time. I ask our IT guy, are we safe? Are we safe? Russell, are we safe? Because, people try to hack us all the time. We get a lot of spear phishing attacks. And it's just a matter of one employee once saying, oh, yeah, sure, I'll install that. Leo must want me to do that. And we're in trouble. So
Leo doesn't want you to do that.
Leo doesn't want you to do that. No, do not do it.
Well, the one that scares me the most is when he wrote a book called Change Agent.
Yes, that's right. And Kill Decision, too, right? Which is about smart drones. He is really on the cusp of what's going on.
I don't want somebody changing my DNA so I look like somebody that's been a crook all their lives.
No, you got that. You got a great mustache. I love that.
Yeah, they couldn't nail that.
Don't change a thing. Hey, Bruce, thank you for calling. I'll see you in November. We'll be out there.
I'll look forward to seeing you when you're out here.
Yeah, I know. As a resident, you're going to be cursing this racetrack.
All these people all over.
They're destroying downtown.
That one's going to be bad, but the worst one is going to be Super Bowl.
Oh man, that's going to be crazy.
I don't think I want to be in town. I think I'm going to take a week off somewhere and leave town for that one.
Lisa and I went to the Super Bowl in New Orleans some years ago when the 49ers were there, and it was so much fun. But yeah. I mean, New Orleans is used to this because they got Mardi Gras, all that. But we're thinking of coming to the Super Bowl. Which is funny. She says, I'll only go if our team doesn't go because she doesn't want to go and watch them lose again.
Oh, that would be hard.
She only wants to watch somebody else lose.
I just don't want the Raiders coming here winning the going to the Super Bowl because then we lose all the tax.
Oh, interesting.
They have a thing in their contract with the city. If the Raiders make it to the Super Bowl this year, they don't have to pay the entertainment tax.
Holy cow. Huh. Boy, I tell you, these stadiums, they make real sweetheart deals, don't they? And it comes out of your pocket and mine in the long run. Hey,
$750,000, and now Oakland wants another $500 million from us to help build their stadium.
It's probably good for the economy, I guess, but that's $500 million, a lot of money.
Yeah.
Hey, Bruce, take care. Have a great week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day. I don't know why I said that. He doesn't look like a mother.
You know what?
I don't know.
Everybody could have that.
Everybody should have a happy Mother's Day. Sam Abul Samad coming up in just 15 minutes. Let's prepare for Sam by me doing a little commercial. What do you think?
Sounds good.
And then we will come back with more of your calls. Again, call.twit.tv on the Zoom. I love all the calls we're getting.
I know, some great calls today.
It's great. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. I was getting a little nervous. That's why we wanted to put in the phone number that people couldn't figure out how to use the Zoom. It's a little tricksy, I know. And coming up, it's the hottest game of the year. In fact, some say the best video game of all time. It came out on Friday. Are you a Zelda fan?
No.
Are you a Mario fan? You're not a gamer.
Yeah.
So Zelda and Mario are the two Nintendo characters that have pretty much owned gaming. Mm-hmm. And the new Zelda came out on Friday, and we're going to get a little demo.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Thank you for remembering that. TOTK is all I can remember. John Ashley has been playing all weekend. Mm-hmm. You have?
I would not.
Yes, he has.
If I had to be here, I would still be playing.
If he weren't here working, he would still be playing
right now.
So we're going to let him play it. We're going to get a little demo of what some are saying, some are calling the best video game of all time. That's coming up a little later on. I like to keep up on what the kids are.
Yeah, what they playing.
What the kids are doing.
What you playing?
Our show today brought to you by Thinkst Canary. We were talking about ransomware. You know what the biggest threat to companies is? You know, you put up these defenses, you put up these walls, but how do you know if they've penetrated your defenses and they're inside the network? Because once they're inside the network, that's when they start preparing their ransomware attack. You know, the days where they would just launch it and, say, give us money are gone. What happens now? Bad guys get in, they browse around, they look at all the places you back up because they want to get your backups. And then they do something even worse. They exfiltrate all your private information, customer information, things like that, because after they fire off the ransomware bomb, then they can blackmail you and say, oh, and by the way, it's going to cost you a little extra, or we're releasing all this information to the public. The reputational damage to your company, the cost to your company of these kinds of attacks is unbelievable. But there is a way to detect intruders in your network the instant they arrive. It's something we have on our network, and I really love. It's called the Thinkst Canary. If you've heard the term honeypots, this is what it is. It's an easy, simple to configure honeypot that runs on your network. It's a honeypot because it attracts hackers. If somebody's in your network, they're browsing around, they'll see the Thinkst Canary. They'll see it on your Active Directory, or they'll see a server, or they'll see files around. The beauty of this is you just connect it. It's a little box, looks about the size of an external hard drive. You just connect it to your network and forget about it. It's easy to configure. It can look like anything, a Linux server, a Windows server. You can light up all the services, or, like a Christmas tree, or you could just have a few select services. Mine looks like a NAS, a Synology NAS. It was very easy to set up. And the thing is, they do such a good job. It really is indistinguishable from the real thing. It has the same MAC address, legit MAC address. It has the legit login. So the bad guys go, oh, they don't think it's vulnerable. They think, oh, this is valuable. And the minute they attack it, boom, you're notified. You can also create what they call canary tokens with your canaries. These are little files. They could be PDFs, docs, spreadsheets, whatever you want, that are spread on your network. Same thing. Somebody tries to open it, you're notified. And that is huge. Canary uses deceptively uncomplicated, high-quality markers of trouble on your network. You choose a profile for your device. You could tweak the services it runs. You can have IIS running, OpenSSH. You can actually have a file share with actual files on the file share, Canary tokens. Then you register your Canary with a hosted console for monitoring and notifications. You get notifications any way you want: email, text. You can get syslog. There's an API. It supports webhooks, all sorts of ways. The point is, you won't hear anything unless something bad has happened. Once an attacker gets into your network, or maybe it could be, the evil maid attack. It could be an employee who's snooping around. They'll make themselves known by accessing the Canary or the Canary tokens, and you'll immediately be notified. If you want to see how people love Canary, go to canary.tools/love. People on all 7 continents love their Thinkst Canaries. Deploy your birds, then just forget about them. They stay quiet until you need them. One alert, and there's somebody in the room. Visit canary.tools/twit. Most, a big bank might have hundreds of them. The Vegas, services for the back end, the Vegas casinos, they might have hundreds of them spread out all over. A small business like ours might have typically, say, 5. That would cost about $7,500 a year. You'd get your own hosted console. You get upgrades. You get support. You get maintenance. They'll send you a new one right away. And if you use the code TWIT in the How'd You Hear About Us box, you'll get 10% off the price for life. Plus, we get credit, which I like. Thinkst Canary, it adds incomparable value. But here's the good news. They've got a 60-day, 2-month money-back guarantee for a full refund if you're unhappy in any way. Although I have to point out, I love this, that in all the years they've been advertising on our shows, not one person has ever asked for their money back, because these things are great. We're really happy to have them on our network. You should too. Visit canary.tools/twit. Enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box for 10% off for life. Thinkst Canary, canary.tools/twit. Love these guys. Haroon and his team are just excellent. I think we have time for another call before Sam Apple's sandwich.
Let's do another call.
Let me push the button. Guy is next. Hi, Guy. Hey, Guy. He's waving at us. Guy, come on in and join us in the magic Zoom room. Did I push the button? Maybe let's do it again. Guy, send to breakout room.
There we go.
There it is. Okay. Hi, Guy.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
What's going on?
Wow. Is that Tron?
one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm waiting for Tron 3 to come up, and all the news that comes around Tron. I am ready to hear from it.
What's up? What's up in your world, Guy?
Hey guys, I want to continue this Linux train.
Okay. Choo choo.
Yeah, that's right. I get to handle a lot of old computers and stuff like that. And the more older computers, and the more you guys talk about old computers and how you can put a Linux on it, I'm kind of interested in putting more value toward the computers, towards letting them understand an older operating system and stuff. So my question is that I installed Linux Mint on a old Mac Mini, okay? Mm-hmm. And, everything looks good, and it's kind of a familiar interface with, the start menu look or something like that. But my question is that when I install a program that is outside like the store or something like that, does it require additional things to install it out of protection? Because the reason why I asked that is I wanted to install my preferred VPN and everything. And it says it requires additional components to install, repositories or something like that. Yeah. So that's my question.
So do you want to take this or shall I?
I think you should take it, Mr. Linux.
I love talking about Linux. So Linux is an open source operating system. You got Mac OS, you've got Windows. You probably have heard of Unix, which was the original kind of operating system out of Bell Labs. Unix is essentially the back end for Mac OS. Mm-hmm. And in 1992, a Finnish graduate student named Linus Torvalds who decided he was going to write his own operating system. And he based it on a teaching operating system called Minix. His name was Linus, so he called it Linux. Linus is Minix. But his goal was, and they've always called it this, they aimed to be POSIX compliant. POSIX, P-O-S-I-X, is a standard that is essentially Unix. If you're POSIX compliant, you are considered a Unix-like operating system. And Unix people can understand how it works and know what the commands are and kind of know how it works under the hood and all of that stuff. Linus never tried to create a Unix, but he was aiming towards POSIX compliance. Now, over the years, Linus's timing was great because the internet was just emerging, right? So over the years, many, many people have worked on Linux. Linux is a kernel and have added on top of it programs. In fact, a big contributor to all of this is the Free Software Foundation, Richard Stallman's group. In fact, he created something called GNU. GNU's not Linux, GNU. GNU's not Unix, I mean, GNU. In his goal was to recreate all the well-known Linux programs. Or Unix, I confuse Linux and Unix, they're two different things. He wanted to recreate all the Unix programs to make them available open source and freely to anybody who wanted them. Well, that timing was perfect because Linus has created his kernel of operating system. The internet has appeared, so he's got contributors all over the world helping him. And then all of a sudden, the Free Software Foundation is releasing standard Unix utilities that work with Linux. So when we talk about Linux, we're really talking about a Linux kernel with free software utilities on top of it. And like any operating system, you can install more and more and more. So you talked about your repositories. Every Linux, I should mention what a distro is. So once we got the Linux kernel, the stuff we put on top of it, the installers, the programs, and so forth, those are called distributions. And anybody can make a distribution. There's a great site, distrowatch.com, that lists all the distributions and their popularity. You mentioned Mint. That's currently the number 3 version of Linux after MX Linux and Endeavor OS. MX Linux is used in containers. That's why it's so popular. It's probably not something any end user would install. Then there's Manjaro, Fedora, Pop OS, Ubuntu, Debian, Lite, OpenSUSE, Garuda. That's just the top 10. There's a lot of different kinds. There's hundreds of distributions. So you choose a distribution. Mint's very popular. It's based on Ubuntu. Very, very popular. you choose a distribution, it's going to have its own kind of installer. It's going to have its own group of programs, and you install it. But now, in order to add features, you will use the repositories, and every single distribution has its own repositories. These are servers spread all over the world. There's usually hundreds of them where you can get additional programs for free in most cases to install on top of it. It's kind of the idea like the Windows Store or the Macintosh App Store, but there's many of them and there's many more programs, and they're all open source, and the quality will vary quite a bit. When you say, I want to do a VPN, it may well be that in addition to that one VPN program, and this is kind of the way Unix works, a number of other programs have to be installed with it. Generally, when you're using Mint, you're using apt as the installer. You're going to go to apt or apt-get, and you're going to say, I want to install a VPN. And the package manager, that's what apt is, should then say, oh, well, I'm going to also have to install these 14 other programs, and it'll do it for you, and then you'll have a full version. That's what's going on. You'll even see this going by on the screen as it downloads each and installs each. It's really common. It's rare that you would install anything on a Linux distribution and not have to install some extra stuff in the background. Eventually, I guess you'd install everything you ever needed to install, and it would just go, okay, now this will work. But usually you have to install a bunch of other stuff.
So does this involve kind of getting out of the mindset as you do on a Windows machine or a Mac, going to a website, clicking download, double-clicking, and installing?
You're done. Because on Mac and Windows, typically, they'll include all this stuff in this blob that you download. So really, what's different with Linux is you're seeing all the stuff happen. It's still happening on Mac and Windows. You just don't see it happen. So now installing a VPN is kind of complicated. It is not like just going out and getting our sponsor ExpressVPN and installing it. You're going to install. Are you doing WireGuard? Which VPN are you installing?
I use Nord.
Nord, okay. So Nord is a commercial program. So it's saying you need some additional stuff.
That is correct.
Yeah. People have been trying to solve this in the Linux world with various packages like snaps that make it easier to install. That might be the solution on Mint, is to, instead of installing from scratch, there's different ways of installing software. In Linux, you can actually download the source code and build it. That takes the longest amount of time. Or you can download blobs and install them one by one and have a full set. Or you can use these packages like snaps. There's several of these. Snaps is probably I think it's the one that is preferred on Mint. So you might look and see if there's a NordVPN snap. That will behave much more like a Windows or Mac program, where it will just have in a package all the stuff you need. And then you shouldn't have to do anything. It should just work out of the box.
So none of this is done through the terminal program or anything.
Well, it can be, or you can use the the store. They often call it a store. It's really just a GUI on top of the package manager apt. So yeah, you can do it in the command line, or you can do it in the I can't remember what Mint calls it, but the store.
So what one do you use? I think you said you've used Pop before.
So there's really kind of two. There's more than two, but there's two main branches in the Linux world. There are rolling distributions, which is much more like you're used to with Mac and Windows, where every program gets updated whenever there's an update. And there's stable distributions, where they try to make it as stable as possible and only update if it's absolutely necessary for security. And some people prefer stable and some people prefer rolling. The stable options, Mint's one of the stable options. It's based on Ubuntu, which is based on Debian. Debian is the kind of the root stable operating system. In the rolling world, Arch is kind of the stable, the rolling version, and then people build on top of Arch. So I use Manjaro. Pop! OS is Debian plus Ubuntu plus from System 76 Pop! OS. So they've taken, and this is what it happens in the open source world. Nobody owns it. So they've taken Debian, which is the largest community-driven version of Linux. It's very, very common, probably the most used version because of all these derivatives. And then Ubuntu was a company called Canonical, Mark Shuttleworth, who made a lot of money in the .com era, decided, I should have a Linux that we really make easy to use. So he created Ubuntu, put a lot of money into it. They do sell services. They sell additional stuff to kind of pay him back. But that's on top of Debian. And then Pop! OS, another company that makes Linux hardware, System 76, took Ubuntu and made Pop! OS. Pop! OS is great because it's all the edges have been sanded down. It's very easy to use. It's a great beginner distro. And because it's a stable distro for the most part, it doesn't break. The problem with rolling distributions is at any given time you can break them with an untoward update. It's starting to blur a little bit. There are rolling distributions and stable distributions. Fedora has both, for instance. I think SUSE has both now. They're starting to give people more choices. Yes, there's even rolling distributions in the Ubuntu world, but most of the time, I think for beginners, Debian, Ubuntu, Pop! OS, Mint, which is also based on Ubuntu, are very good choices. They're more stable. They're not going to break, especially if you use the LTS version of them, the long-term stable version of that. I like to use a rolling distribution. In fact, if you really want to become a Linux guru and you've got a machine you don't mind not a machine you're using in production, but one you don't mind messing with, Arch is the way to start. That's like putting a Debian on there. When you start with Arch, you build it yourself from scratch. The Arch Wiki is the single best, most useful information database for Linux users, no matter what version you're using. But the Arch Wiki you can use to walk through the beginnings of from the kernel on up, building essentially your own distro. And by doing that, you'll really understand how it all works. I think everybody who's really wants to be serious about Linux and understand Linux should at some point build an Arch system from scratch. Inevitably, there'll be problems. It won't work. It's like building your own computer. But once you're done, you really will understand what's going on with Linux, and then all your questions will be kind of answered. You'll have had the experience. I think for Nord, you should look at if there's a snap for Nord, and if there is, that would probably be the easiest way.
I also found a support document that walks you through installing specifically on Mint, so we'll include a link to that in our show notes.
Yeah. This is what's great about Linux is there's no company behind it, and so enthusiasts and users support each other. And so there's things like the Arch Wiki where people just, contribute what they know. And it's a really great system, actually.
I like that community aspect of it, for sure.
I really like it.
My whole idea behind doing this is that, with all this old computers and everything, instead of just trashing it, kind of given the opportunity to, put a clean operating system and allow people to, that are not so green as far as computers, to have a computer where they can use it in production. But if it goes down and everything, something that we can reinstall and,
start fresh.
And just using the hardware as much as we can before we have to consider it really toast.
This is really great. Now, but you're going to give this to people, strangers or seniors or whoever, or schools or churches?
It'll be in a school situation.
Yeah. So, and you're going to be responsible for maintaining it, or you're going to give it to them and say, good luck, have fun? So I would say Pop! OS is a very good choice for that. It's very stable.
The one I like.
It's very stable. And it's easy to use. It's using the GNOME desktop. We won't even get into desktop environments, but that's what makes it look like whatever it looks like. And there's a lot of different ones. GNOME is really straightforward, and most people make the transition from Windows or Mac to GNOME. You've been using it.
That's the one I use because it's easy. Yeah. I understand it, and if I need to, there's so much out there that I can read to figure out whatever I'm having trouble with.
Yeah. So I like Pop! I think Pop! OS is a very nice way to start. Makes it very easy. It's very similar to Mint. I think the team behind it is a little more sophisticated.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Great to talk to you. I love the question.
All right. Bye-bye.
Now,
it's time.
Let's talk cars. Sam Abel-Samad is here. Hello, Sam.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you this week?
Sam is a principal researcher for Guidehouse Insights. No, is that right? Did I say that right?
Principal analyst, yeah.
Principal analyst. He also hosts the Fabulous Wheel Bearings podcast, and we want to make an announcement. we are going to do a Wheel Bearings takeover of Twit.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah,
When is that?
June 11th.
June 11th?
June 11th. Yeah.
So Robbie and Nicole and Sam will all be on Twit. And let's hope there's some car news that week.
I'm sure we can come up with something.
When's the Detroit Auto Show? Isn't that the big...
That's not till September.
Oh, rats. I was hoping.
And well, to be honest, auto shows aren't really where the big automotive news comes from anymore.
Oh. All right.
It's kind of like, back in the day when Apple stopped going to Macworld and started doing their own events. Automakers are doing the same thing now because it's enormously expensive to put on a display and a press conference at an auto show. Again, just like with Apple, it also ties them down to specific dates.
Yes.
Now most automakers are doing their own standalone events. A lot of times they come kind of lined up, a week, 2-3 weeks before or just after an auto show anyway. But this way they don't have to fight with 20 other automakers for a 15-minute slice of the news cycle during the course of an auto show press day. And they get the whole day all to themselves.
So Sam joins us every month now, and we're thrilled about that, to give us the latest automotive news. What's going on in your world, Sam?
I was just checking over, glanced over at the chat, and Twisted Mister mentioned Alfa Romeo stopped going to auto shows because the cars kept breaking down on the way. I think
on the way.
I think that's a little harsh.
That's harsh, man.
Alphas are not that unreliable. I know people who own Alphas. I love driving Alfa Romeos. They are lovely vehicles.
Italian cars in general Italian and British cars in general have that reputation, but I think
they have that reputation, but for the most part, with modern vehicles, that reputation for unreliability, it's one of those things of the past that, most modern vehicles are very reliable.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We kind of take it for granted, but 20 years ago, cars break down all the time and you'd have problems and the electrical would catch on fire. There are all sorts of problems. And why do you think that is? Is it, I feel like the Japanese manufacturers came in and they showed people what a quality vehicle, reliable vehicle could be. And American automakers and automakers around the world said, yikes, they're going to eat our lunch. We better follow their standards and practices. And they've kind of adopted those. Is that's just my sense as a layperson.
Yeah. So kind of what happened is, after World War II, the Japanese automakers, particularly Toyota, adopted some ideas from an American named J. Edwards Deming about quality and quality processes, and adapted that into the Toyota production system.
They call it quality circles, right? And things like that.
That's part of it. Yeah. And so what they do now, and there's a whole bunch of components to this. There's the Kanban boards, where they put ideas up on there and they track what's changing. They have Kaizen cords. I think that's what it is, on the assembly lines. So Toyota started this where any worker on the assembly line could pull the cord and stop the assembly line at any time if they detected a quality issue. If they saw something that was problematic. And, then everybody would dive into it, figure out what the problem was, fix it, and then the line would start again. And they also did things like just-in-time manufacturing. It used to be that car factories would have, weeks worth of inventory of parts to build cars. And, so they would have huge amounts of a factory that's just dedicated to all this parts inventory. But the problem is if a supplier had a quality issue somewhere along the line, now you suddenly had weeks worth of bad parts in your factory. And so they went to just-in-time manufacturing. So instead of, parts being made, weeks in advance of when they got installed on a vehicle, it's often hours or at most days in advance of when it goes into a vehicle. And so that cut down on costs for the inventory of parts, but also when a quality problem was detected, you could stop the line. You wouldn't have this huge inventory of parts that needed to be reworked or scrapped. And you could find the problem, fix it, and then get things going again. And that has since been adopted by almost the entire industry. In fact, many industries, not just the auto industry, this whole approach to production. Now, over the last 2-3 years, we've kind of seen the limitations of that, with things like the chip shortage and shortages of many other components, because, along with that, what happened at the same time over the last few decades is we had this consolidation in a lot of industries of fewer and fewer companies making more and more stuff in fewer and fewer locations. And now it became this whole system became very brittle and subject to disruptions, so that if something went wrong somewhere, whether it was a quality problem or natural disasters, earthquakes, fires, floods, all of a sudden everybody got hurt. So now everybody's trying to rebalance and trying to find the right balance again of between just in time, being able to address quality problems quickly, but back to the beginning of this, that is a big part of why modern vehicles tend to be so much more reliable, because you get fewer quality issues getting through. And then, if and when they do get through to customers, then in most cases, manufacturers, get onto fixing them. They do recalls. We do many more recalls than we used to fix problems. So while recalls are annoying to customers, it's better to, do that recall and get something fixed, especially if it's a safety related issue, and get that done before it leads to unexpected breakdowns later on.
And I think the other thing that's going to happen is as we move to EVs, they're even more reliable. Internal combustion engines are amazing design,
in general,
amazing engineering feats. They're incredibly complex, but an electric engine is very simple.
The fact that a typical internal combustion engine works at all,
it's amazing.
Is as efficient as it is a real feat of engineering.
No kidding.
You've got thousands of parts in an engine, and they're all running and moving at parts moving at very high speeds inside the engine, pistons moving up and down, crankshaft spinning at 6, 7, 8,000 RPM, at hundreds of degrees, and the progress that's been made on efficiency, on emissions with these engines is remarkable. But the next big step is electrification, and electric motors are much more, much simpler than internal combustion engines. We often hear, there's one moving part, which is only sort of true. An electric motor is generally a stator, which is stationary, and a rotor, which spins inside of the stator. But of course, each of those components are actually made up of hundreds of components, because the stator and the rotor are made up of a stack of laminate plates, metal plates, and magnets. And you assemble all that together, and the rotor is assembled from hundreds of parts into one component called a rotor. Kind of like a battery. A battery, has one part number, but it can have anywhere from hundreds to thousands of parts inside that battery for all the cells, depending on the type of cells you use. So it's not quite that simple. But the real issue with electric vehicles, and even gas vehicles for the next decade or so, where we're actually probably going to have more problems, is software. Which
we know how reliable computers are.
That's why we have the show.
Exactly.
We wouldn't have a show if they worked as expected. The big story in my world this week is the announcement that many car manufacturers are dropping the AM radios out of cars. Ford announced that they're going to stop putting them first in the Mustang and then in all vehicles. And then other auto manufacturers follow along. The Washington Post had a story, and it was kind of brought a tear to my eye. The end of a love affair. AM radio is being removed from many cars. Ford, BMW, Volkswagen, Tesla. My Mustang Mach-E doesn't have an AM radio. And, originally I guess it was because they said, well, electric cars aren't going to, they interfere with the AM radio. But I think honestly, most manufacturers are saving money. They're taking the AM radio out. And they're saying, you can listen on your phone. You can listen to whatever you want on your phone. There was this.
Good thing you're not on AM radio anymore.
I know this. I really brought a tear to my eye.
Timed that right.
Because this article, the Post did a great article, and it highlighted a small AM station in Bryant, in College Station, Texas, and the DJ who'd been there 25 years and all that stuff, and so much of AM radio listening is in car.
Yeah, where else? Yeah,
traffic reports and other things. Although, now, with your phones and with connected navigation systems in vehicles, we're getting even more real-time traffic reports. Instead of waiting every half hour.
Yeah, it's in my Waze
traffic report on
or
the radio,
my Google Maps, right?
Yeah, you're getting real-time updates in the map telling you, oh, there's a backup here.
Same with weather. Same with
suggest
news.
a different route. Yeah. So there's upsides and downsides. The downside to that, of course, is that we don't actually have connectivity everywhere. In most urban areas, urban suburban areas, most populated areas, that's the connectivity is generally not a problem. But when you get out into rural areas, when you're out in the middle part of the country, or even in other, just down the road from you guys, if you head towards the coast and
it's
Marin
easy
County,
to get out of it. We were just Mike and I just took a road trip on. Was it Friday? Yeah, Friday. And both of our phones, all it said was SOS.
Yeah.
It was like, I guess.
If you head out to Marshall for some oysters.
Yes.
There's no cell phone signal.
And then you can't, your maps stop working. Everything stops working. And of course, AM radio stations are saying, look, we have a huge role to play in emergencies. This is how people get hurricane information or earthquake information. So I'm not sure this is a good thing. Are car makers?
Well, it's maybe premature.
Yeah, are they getting a little backlash from for all this?
They're getting some. There's always backlash anytime you change anything.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to complain about it, and sure, they're certainly getting some backlash. But my guess is that it's probably not enough to offset, the advantages. Simplifying certain things. There are challenges with doing AM radio in terms of, some of the shielding you have to do against electromagnetic interference and that sort of thing. And it is tougher to do in an EV. You've got those big electric motors that are throwing off all kinds of EMI. And so that is a problem. So my guess is we will not see AM radio coming back to vehicles unless regulators mandate it, which is, it's probably unlikely that that they will get their act together to actually do that.
Yeah, they're actually the AM stations are lobbying the Department of Transportation to kind of make some sort of requirement. We'll see what happens in that. Anything else before we let you go? In what are you driving this week?
Well, this week I have a 2023 Ford Bronco Heritage Edition.
Oh, fun!
So it's. It's got the big 35-inch tires on there. It's a real off-roader. But it has a manual transmission, believe it or not.
Wow.
Four-cylinder turbocharged engine, a manual transmission.
Wow.
It's kind of fun to drive off-road. But I want to touch on something else. Going back to the software issue in cars. This past week, we've had a couple of announcements from automakers about software problems. On Thursday, Polestar, when they released Polestar is an offshoot of Volvo that does higher performance EVs. They were supposed to launch a new vehicle late this summer called the Polestar 3. It's a crossover, electric crossover, and it's sharing a platform with the new Volvo EX90, which is Volvo's new electric 3-row SUV. It's a replacement for the XC90. And Volvo is doing the platform for both of those vehicles, including all the software. And they're having some issues, some delays with the software development. And so they have had to push back the production launch of those vehicles by about 6 months because of that. And then earlier in the week, Volkswagen, several years ago, Volkswagen reorganized their engineering teams. They took all of the software engineers from across all the brands and all the different groups within Volkswagen and put them into a new business unit called Cariad, which was going to be responsible for all of Volkswagen's software. Well, that's not working out so well. They've had a lot of issues, a lot of delays with their software. And last fall, Herbert Diess, who was the CEO of Volkswagen Group, he lost his job because of the problems at Cariad. And now earlier this week, the CEO, the CTO, and the CFO of Cariad were all fired. And they're being replaced. Cariad's version 2.0 of their CarOS platform for future VW Group vehicles, including Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche, and a bunch of other brands, was supposed to launch in 2025. It's now being pushed back to about 2027, 28 timeframe. So software is really hard, especially if you're trying to do it in a way that is actually safe. Because the thing you got to remember, unlike our phones, if the software on our phones breaks or crashes, your phone resets. It's more of an annoyance than anything else. People don't usually die. If the software in your car crashes, that can be really, really bad. As an example, this past week, VinFast, a new automaker out of Vietnam, launching their first vehicle. It's an EV here in the U.S. They had a media drive program, which Nicole went on. I just before we came on the air, I published this week's wheel bearings. She shared her thoughts on the VinFast VF8. And I'll just say there's a story on Jalopnik where they have some excerpts from a variety of all the reviews that came out the other day about the VinFast VF8. The headline is, critics agree the VinFast VF8 is very, very bad.
Wow. And that's all because of software.
A lot of it is software, but there's also a lot of hardware issues.
Oh, let's not buy that car. They're not selling it in the U.S., are they?
Yeah. They've already started doing deliveries in California.
Okay.
And circling back to what we started with about, modern cars getting better.
Yeah.
The final paragraph of the Jalopnik story, the real commonality between all of these accounts is that overnight, the VF8 has obliterated the notion that there are no terrible cars for sale anymore.
Oh my goodness.
Frankly, it's hard to remember the last time a car released to overwhelming disdain. A car that every critic agreed simply wasn't ready. And a lot of it is software, but there's also a lot of hardware issues with it too. So,
yikes.
For all the progress we've made, every once in a while, something bad still manages to slip through.
Wow. On that note, wow. Yeah. If you want to screw things up, it takes a computer to really screw them up good, I think.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Mr. Sam.
Somebody with a wrench can only go so far.
Catch that all on Wheel Bearings, wheelbearings.media, or wherever you get your podcast. It's a great show. And the entire Meet Wheel Bearings crew, I can't wait. Will be joining us. I love Robbie. I love you. And I haven't met Nicole, so I'm looking forward to that. June 11th for This Week in Tech, our roundtable show. And of course, Sam is best known as the intrepid researcher and writer at Guidehouse Insights, where he writes his notes for all investors, and you should listen to him. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Always a
talk
pleasure.
To you again soon.
All right.
See you soon.
It's nice to see Sam. Bye. I like talking about cars.
Yeah, and I honestly did not know about the change in the way that cars were sort of done, including, I didn't know that's where Kanban boards came from.
Yeah.
And then the pull, that was all very fascinating to me.
It was a huge thing in, I'm thinking, I want to say the 70s or the 80s. There were many, many books written about the Japanese process and how we should be adopting it in the United States and stuff. And I guess it did work because cars are more reliable until the computers got involved. And then it was straight downhill. We've got some great calls ready to go. We've got some emails too. The email address, atg@twit.tv. If you want to call in, a phone number, I don't want to promise. We're hoping next week. But meanwhile, you can use our Zoom number. That's call.twit.tv. We'll get to the calls. I see Jeff and Phil waiting in the wings.
And we've also got a video question.
Excuse me, we do. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm excited. Well, we'll get to that too. And then we're going to demo. Excuse me, I have got a little frog in my throat. We're going to demo the best game of all time.
What?
Is that fair, John Ashley? The best? Yeah. I tell you, it's the highest ranking game that has ever been reviewed in the open gaming reviews. It's pretty impressive. We will get to that in just a second. But first, a word from our sponsor, Drata. If your organization is finding it difficult to collect manual evidence and achieve continuous compliance as you grow and scale, you need to know about Drata, a leader in cloud complying software, according to G2. Drata streamlines your SOC 2, your ISO 27001, your PCI DSS, GDPR, HIPAA, and other compliance frameworks. And it does it by providing 24-hour continuous automated control monitoring. So you can sit back, relax, and focus on things like scaling securely. With a suite of more than 75 integrations, Drata easily integrates through applications that you're already using like AWS and Azure and GitHub, Okta, Cloudflare, I go on and on. Countless security professionals from companies including Lemonade, Notion, Bamboo HR have shared how critical it's been to have Drata as a trusted partner in the compliance process. You can expand security assurance efforts using the Drata platform. Companies can see every one of their controls, easily map them to compliance frameworks, and you get immediate insight into framework overlap. Drata's automated dynamic policy templates support companies new to compliance using integrated security awareness training programs and automated reminders to ensure smooth employee onboarding. And as the only player in the industry to build in a private database architecture, you'll love this. Your data can never be accessed by anyone outside your organization. Drata is a partner, too, a member on your team. Everybody, all their customers, gets a team of compliance experts, including a designated customer success manager. Drata has a team of former auditors that have conducted more than 500 audits between them. Your Drata team keeps you on track. So there's no surprises, no barriers. And when you're ready for that audit, their pre-audit calls prepare you so you're ready when the audits begin. Drata's Audit Hub, a solution to faster, more efficient audits to save hours of back and forth communication, never misplace crucial evidence, share documentation instantly. All the interactions and data gathering occur in the hub between you and your auditor. You don't have to switch between different tools or correspondence strategies. Auditors love it. You'll love it. The Drata Audit Hub. With Drata's risk management solution, you can manage end-to-end risk assessment and treatment workflows, flag risks, score them, then decide whether to accept, mitigate, transfer, or avoid them. Drata maps appropriate controls to risks, simplifying risk management, automating the process, and Drata's Trust Center provides real-time transparency into security and compliance, which improves sales, security reviews, and better relationships with customers and partners. So bottom line, say goodbye to manual evidence collection. Say hello to automated compliance. Visit drata.com/twit. Drata, DRATA.com/twit. Drata bringing automation to compliance at Drata speed. Drata.com/twit. Thank you, Drata, for supporting Ask the Tech Guys. Phil is on the line. Let me press the magic twanger and get him, get him into the twang. Phil, welcome. Join us in the Stargate on Ask the Tech Guys.
Hello.
Hey, Phil.
And,
Hello, Phil.
I have to say it's good because I've been waiting decades, literally, to talk to you here on the 3Com Netcam network.
Oh, my God. You know, so Mr. Sargent has no idea what you're talking about, so I'll explain.
Please. For those of us who don't know.
It was actually a big deal for me. May 11th, just a couple of days ago, and get ready for this, Phil, was the 25th anniversary of the launch of Tech TV. And
time sure flies,
25, a quarter of a century, Phil. And one of the things we wanted to do when we started Tech TV is do this, take calls. But remember, this is 25 years ago. There was no Zoom. Nobody had a way of doing this. So we actually made a deal with a company called 3Com. They made these little ball net cams, and we sent out thousands, maybe tens of thousands to people.
Wow.
They called it the 3Com Netcam Network. They wanted to call it the Webcam Network. And I said, you can't call it a webcam. It's not a web. It's not on the web. It's not on the world. It's on the internet. So we called it a netcam network. And Phil, so you must have watched back in the days and you knew about that, right?
We be old, aren't we?
It was so crappy. I can say this now. You get 1 frame a second, and the sound, the audio was terrible. So we made people be on the phone. So if you look at those old videos, and there's still some on YouTube, you see they're holding a phone and talking to us on the phone, and we've got their picture slowly. We've come a long way. I mean, this works so much better.
Look at that frame
now.
rate. That's at least 12 frames per second.
What can we do for you, Phil?
Well, I have an iPad-related question. I had just recently retired a iPad Air 2. I got it about 2015, 2016. I used it as long as I could, and apps finally stopped working on them. So a very wonderful friend of mine bought a new iPad Air 5 for me. And I'm having a few problems with vision these days. So I went in to adjust the accessibility settings to try to make the text and things bigger. Mm-hmm. And from what I can find, it seems as though the text will adjust larger in menus and things like that. But on my home screen, where the icons are and where the text are for those app icons, they're small, and I cannot adjust them any bigger. Do you know of a way to do that?
Yes. So there is a special setting, and this is, unfortunately, they have these options stored in different locations. But I do see, I wish I had an iPad in front of me. If you go into the settings app on the iPad, there is underneath general, you'll see control center, display brightness, and you'll see home screen. And if you go into that home screen setting, I believe that is where the toggle is that lets you change the size of the home screen. So by default, you kind of have an option. You can either have it larger or you can have it smaller. And that's because they wanted to give people the ability to kind of treat it as a bit of a personal computer. But the larger option will give you those icons a lot bigger. And I actually have a recommendation for you that on top of using that, you might consider using the sort of built-in utility called Magnifier. Mm-hmm. And what's great about Magnifier is that you can trigger it at any time that you want to use it. And so what it lets you do is kind of make different parts of the screen bigger as you need to. And I guess it's called Zoom on, I forget, that's Mac OS where they call it Magnifier. But when you turn it on, and this is an accessibility setting, so you go to settings, you go to accessibility, and you tap on Zoom, you can turn it on, and then you trigger it by double tapping 3 fingers onto the screen. And when you do that, then it brings up this little rectangle that is sort of zoomed in even more than the basic text is. You can move it to where you want it on screen, see what you're looking at, and then doop, doop, tap it again, and it'll go away. And okay, yes. So someone has helpfully put into the Discord, thank you to whomever you are, a screenshot. And
so it's at the top level, and it's under home screen and multitasking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that will let you see a larger version. It's actually the first option that says use large app icons. So very clearly there, use large app icons.
I have to say, there is a limit to how much bigger you can make it.
Yes.
And, it's unfortunate because that's Apple, and that's, they don't want to make it ugly.
Right. And that's where Zoom can be helpful to you to take it in even one step further.
Glass.
And as I mentioned, what's great about it is you just double tap again with your 3 fingers and it goes away. So it's not as if it's annoyingly taking up room on your screen at all times. You can use it temporarily to see what you're looking at, get what you need, make it go away.
And as your eyesight deteriorates, you may eventually want to broadcast it up on a screen. You can easily do that. Idea. Put it on a big screen and then get close to the screen. Things like that. You're going to have to use tricks like that to make it more usable. I know that makes it less portable. It just depends on how bad your eyesight gets.
I will try the Zoom option. I know I did try the use large app icons setting.
Okay.
And there didn't seem to be that much difference between with that off on.
Apple doesn't want to make it unaesthetic, but it isn't very useful if you can't see it. So there's only so much you can do, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm also
turn the zoom all the way up. I always do that on my phone.
Yeah, it's a really handy feature. I'm also going to reach out to my pal and person who's regularly on the show, Matthew Casanelli. He has a great shortcut to where all you have to do is tap on that shortcut and it turns on all of these features. He calls it Bigify, if I remember correctly.
Good name
and so
for it.
you can tap it, you can Bigify everything, and then whenever you're done, you can tap it again, and it enables a lot of these accessibility features, but also some of the other features. So let me get that into the show notes as well, so you can use that kind of secondarily if you want to.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil.
Absolutely.
It's great. Where are you?
Yeah,
I didn't ask where you were calling from.
Kettering, Ohio.
Kettering, Ohio. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, it's a suburb of Dayton.
Nice to hear from you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I got to talk to you.
On the ZDTV 3Com Netcam network.
There you go.
I'll have to find some video of that. It was a very funky setup. We've come a long way, I have to say. Well, it makes sense. That was 25 years ago. Wow. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you. Have a great day.
To talk to you. You too. Jeff's on the line from Oakland, California. Also been hanging on forever and ever. Welcome, Jeff. It's great to have you on Ask the Tech Guys. Call.twit.tv. And then we'll get to our video question as well. I love it when people send us videos. ATG at twit.tv.
Got it.
Hello, Jeff. Welcome.
Hey there, Leo. Glad to talk to you again.
Great to have you.
It's been a long time. But, I live in Oakland, and I never ventured to come up to Petaluma.
Yeah, it's too late now. After COVID, we closed the studio.
I missed that.
Okay, don't tell anybody, but if you let me know ahead of time, and I'll just kind of sneak you in. Don't tell anybody. Though, just between us. Okay, sneak you in. Yeah, because we don't. The reason is we don't have a security guard anymore, and we don't have anybody manning the front desk anymore. So it really has to be kind of prearranged, and
we have a security guard. It's just a canine security guard.
Yeah, and she's this big, so
yeah, I see. Yes,
she's not gonna protect much. What can we do for you today?
So yeah, okay. I have this annoying problem, and that is my text messages don't tell alarm on me. In particular, my wife's don't, and actually sometimes they do. But my wife does it, and she, when she sends me 5 texts in a row, the same thing, she gets a little upset.
What happens? It doesn't notify you?
It doesn't go ding.
Doesn't have a ding.
It doesn't ding.
Yeah.
What kind of device are you using?
I'm sorry, it's iPhone.
Okay.
And they are
13,
coming in. If you open up the Messages app, you'll see them.
They come in.
It's just not notifying you. But it is sometimes.
You said it's sometimes, though.
I hate that.
Well, some texts do. I'm not sure why, but I really want to. I don't really care about the other ones. I just want to make sure my wife's ding.
Fair enough, honey. You didn't ding. Yeah. It's not my fault. You didn't ding.
So it's that intermittent thing that you're talking about that makes me wonder. Because what I was going to suggest is taking a look in your Contacts app and seeing if you've set up a custom ringtone or text tone for the person, because that can make a difference.
In fact, that might be a good idea to do.
Yes. So if you're wanting to do that, you launch the Contacts app, you choose Edit on the contact, you scroll down, and there's an option for ringtone and text tone. By default, it's set to, can you guess? Default. But if you tap on that, you can set up a custom default. And I should also mention that iOS recently added a feature called Emergency Bypass. And with Emergency Bypass toggled on, here's what it says. This feature allows sounds and vibrations from this person even when the ring switch is set to silent or when a focus mode is on.
I like that.
So you could push it through and say, I don't care what's going on.
I want to hear
this every single time.
Yeah.
I also like to set up a custom vibration for people who are very close to me so that I can go, oh, I know that's a message coming in from this person. And all of that is available via the Contacts app.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, because so there's a couple of, the problem is there's several ways to mute those dings, multiple ways. There's the silencer switch, which by the way, I'm glad Apple still puts, no other phone company does that anymore.
Isn't that sad?
But that's really nice to have a physical switch where you just switch that silent. you can, I think you certainly could do it with phone calls, but putting it face down will mute phone calls. I suspect it might mute dings as well. So don't put your phone face down. And then there's these focus.
Part of the problem.
Yeah. Then there's these focus modes, which are really nutty. I have mixed feelings about this. It used to be there was just a do not disturb, turn it on or off. Now you got all these focus modes and all these settings. If you're willing to put the time into it, it's great.
It's
like when I get in the car and drive, there's a driving focus mode. So it changes how my phone behaves in the car. Same thing at home. I have my work focus mode on right now because I don't want it to make any noise while I'm on the air. It does that for my calendar. So if you're willing to put some time into it, it's very valuable. But if you don't want to, and most people don't, it's extremely confusing, and a lot of the features are hidden away and so forth. My wife, every time she says, I just want do not disturb on my watch. And when she puts it, it says, well, you want it for an hour? You want it for 2 hours? You want it until you leave? You want it to, it's so complicated. So there are a lot of places you can look. I love this idea, and I didn't even know this existed. Go into contacts and say, this person must always ding.
Yeah, this is relatively new, this emergency bypass feature. So I would try that for your wife. And then that way you can definitely go, look, I did all of the things I was supposed to do. It's not my fault.
Right. Okay.
That's a good feature. I'm going to turn that on for Lisa. Too. Yeah. That's great. Tell her Happy Mother's Day, okay? You doing anything?
Okay. Well, hey, I had one other question.
Yes.
Her MacBook Air M1 2020 I think we got it in 21 is the screen doesn't show up. When you open it, you can see the Apple logo when you start the computer, but then it disappears and the screen's blank all the rest of the time.
That's interesting.
And I took it to the Apple store. I took it to the Apple store yesterday.
Yeah.
And they looked at it and they said they want $400.
Yeah. They want that just to look at it. Yeah.
No. They already looked at it and decided $400.
Oh, to fix it.
Did they say what they were wanting to repair?
No. I haven't. I didn't call them back and ask them what it was.
I'd really like to know what's wrong.
Yeah, that's honestly, I would suggest maybe calling them and saying, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. What is it that you're going to be repairing? And then you call us back. And then we might be able to help you with whatever it is that's wrong with it.
If you open the screws at the bottom of one of those things, is there like a?
Oh, is there a sticker inside that's going to break and then you can't get it?
No.
There's a cable. Every laptop has a ribbon cable that goes from the guts of it where the CPU is into the screen. That's the connection. The fact that you see the Apple logo though, tells me the screen is not dead.
I really would like to.
It sounds like a software thing.
It does.
Okay.
It really does.
Does the light? He's asking if the light comes on. John, we don't have lights anymore. He's talking about the Apple logo on the screen. Yeah, right. You're talking about the screen Apple logo, right? Yeah, on the M1s, there's no lights on the lid
when you start it up, there's an Apple, and it says way.
So that tells me the screen's working.
And then disappears.
Honestly, the Apple Store should have done this. I would do this. Reinstall the operating system.
Yeah.
That's an easy, quick way to make sure that you don't have some weird setting going on. Actually, before you even do that, and this is everybody who has a Mac should do this. When I first set up a Mac, I always create a unused administrator account. Mm-hmm. I call it Ghost in the Machine, but you call it whatever you want. But that account I never touch, and it's useful for diagnostics because if a machine's misbehaving, I want to know, is this local just to this profile, this user, or is this to the whole system? And so what you could do is create a new account. It's better to do it when you first set it up. Do it now if you don't have it. Create a new account, log into it, and see if you can see the screen. Now, it might be hard to do. You have to attach an external monitor. Can you, by the way, that's a question. Can you attach an external monitor?
Yes.
And it works.
And you see the screen. Yes.
Yeah. So it sounds like a hardware issue more than a software
so it
issue.
does work from the outside.
It's weird that you see the Apple, but that may be coming through in some different way. That might be the BIOS kind of screen or something like that.
I'd still
here's
ask
my
them what
problem
they're
with the
fixing.
Apple Store. Ask them. But my problem with the Apple Store, this is all modern computer techs nowadays. They swap parts. That's all they do. They don't fix anything. They just, and
Right.
$400 is not enough for a new Logic board unless you have Apple Care. Do you have Apple Care?
No.
No.
Not on
So
this
so a new Logic board would be probably over $1,000. So it's not the motherboard.
Yeah.
Maybe it is just that cable. That seems like a lot, but they have to open it up and put a new one in.
Yeah.
If it's just that cable, the thing is you can't do that yourself. Probably ask them what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Find out.
Okay.
Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks for
It's
the
beautiful
questions.
weather here in the Bay Area this week.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great to talk to you.
You too. Bye.
Is it time?
I think I want to get put John Ashley, our producer, to work.
All right.
What do you think?
To more work, yeah.
He's laughing. He's laughing. So right now, on Friday, a new video game came out, and you'd be hard pressed not to be hearing about this right now. It is a sequel to one of the most popular franchises on the Nintendo Switch. On Nintendo in general, Zelda came out I think it was a Super NES first. It's been around for decades. Tears of the Kingdom is a sequel to the last Zelda for the Nintendo Switch, Breath of the Wild. It is the highest rated game of all time on OpenCritic. It's gaining rave reviews everywhere as one of the best video games of all time. And I thought, since I know you're hearing about it, even if you're not a gamer, or you don't have a Switch, or you don't know about Zelda, I think this is culturally important.
I agree.
Right?
Let's talk about it.
It's not as
Maybe you want
important
to know about it
as the Eurovision Song Contest, but it's up there. So I'm going to walk over because one of our team members is a Zelda freak, and he's been playing it nonstop for 2 solid days. Let's go talk to John Ashley. I'm going to take a walk. So you've been playing Zelda for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zelda is, now correct me if I'm wrong, she's a princess.
Yes.
The story has changed a little bit since the beginning. In the first one, I think she was kidnapped and you had to rescue her. But now it's like she rules a land called Hyrule. And Hyrule has had some troubles lately.
Just a little bit.
Lately.
Yeah.
Most recently in Breath of the Wild, Calamity Ganon came along and destroyed the whole place, knocked everything over. Yeah. And her hero, Link, who is the hero of the game, had a magic sword. Just, the whole thing, they almost killed him. They had to put him in I'm interpreting here, a coma.
I mean, pretty good interpretation.
For 100 years, he's sleeping.
Yeah, just
getting better. Mm-hmm. So we pick up the game in the new one, Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, so this is the sequel to Breath of the Wild.
And it's 100 years later.
No. It's sometime after the Breath of the Wild. So
okay.
Yeah, so that's what pretty much happened in the first game. The second game, Zelda and Link are investigating some things underneath the castle.
Underneath the castle.
They came across a figure that did some things. Zelda disappeared. And Link got...
Zelda keeps disappearing, by the way. I just have to point this out. Mm-hmm. She is a very unreliable person.
I wouldn't say unreliable. It's just unfortunate things have been happening to her.
But Link is a constant, right?
Yeah,
He's always the hero.
Yeah.
So let's put the game up because I want people to see it. One of the things that's unique about...
well, hold on. Before I have to do this. So we need to get to a place, right?
Whoa. Hold on, you're way ahead of me.
Yes, just a little bit.
You're way ahead of me.
I've been playing since that game came out Friday, but we need to get to a certain place first.
So the thing go ahead, you play and I'll talk a little bit about this. The thing watch this. This is so cool. He's got a little glider.
Oh, I did the wrong thing.
Don't fall.
I need to
get... He's falling. Oh my God.
Like a flying
So one
squirrel.
of the things you're seeing, by the way, is this is what they call an open
yes.
game. And this was the big thing that happened with Breath of the Wild. Suddenly you had a massive universe that you could wander around in, play in, and there were many puzzles, many interactions, many characters. There's this little glider that got him down safely.
And what's big about this is where you can do anything. You can start anywhere you want. There's no linear structure to the game.
There is an end of the game.
There is an end of the game. Yeah, like for example, Oh, come on.
Oh, no.
Is it procedurally generated or is it?
It's like a minute.
The same
Your
map for
rusty
everyone?
broadsword's badly damaged.
Yeah, that's the one thing with this game is
How much combat is there's a lot? Is there
there's a lot of combat.
Okay.
But
you also can cook. You can
Yes.
build. In fact, cooking is really important because that's how you get your health.
yeah, for example, I have some foods here that gives me like
You've been doing a lot of cooking.
yeah, well,
You spent the weekend cooking.
A little dubious, but yeah.
What was the dubious food? I don't eat that.
No. I mean, it's pixelated, it's blurred out for a reason.
We should point out this is available on the Nintendo Switch. What's interesting about this, the Switch is just 6 years old. This is my Switch. Don't judge me. These are the.
I like that
this
one,
is,
though.
This is the.
That's a good one, though.
This is the animal game.
Yeah, Animal Crossing. I like that one, though.
And I got the Animal Crossing version. So
Well, you
don't
had to
judge
because that was the
me.
only version available at the time.
This has been out for about 6 years. Nintendo says sales are dropping, and it seems likely this will be replaced in the next year or so. Some people are saying this might be the last great game on the Nintendo Switch. What's cool about it, and you've probably seen the Steam Deck, and Asus as a competitor, it's portable.
Yeah.
You can carry it around. What we've done, though, is you can also dock it. We've docked yours in the HDMI station, and you've taken the controllers off. They slide right off of it, and you're now playing it with a regular controller as if it's like a console game.
Yeah. So the big thing with this one is you can kind of build things like in Minecraft. So what I'm trying to do right now is this is very rudimentary, and I haven't got too far in this yet. Oops.
I've seen people build ladders to climb up the sides of rock cliffs.
I gotta do one thing real quick.
Are you going to build a shelter here?
No, what I have to do first is actually.
Wait, what are all these? Are these weapons?
Yeah, I have to unequip things, or else I'm gonna get struck by lightning.
Oh, so if you carry around a metal sword,
Yeah,
lightning
anything metallic, I can get struck by lightning and die. And we don't want that.
What happens when you die in this?
You die and then you go back to the last save point you had. So
it's not the end of the world. Is this I would say this is appropriate for kids, not 6-year-old, but maybe 10 and up.
Yeah, anyone that pretty much plays Minecraft could probably.
Yeah. Because it's not a super violent game. It's Nintendo.
I mean, it can be violent. Not like blood or anything like that, but yeah. So I'm trying
Are
to.
you going to build a wagon?
I'm gonna try.
Or a car? Uh-oh, who's that?
They have to hide, and I just hit them by accident. Now you're in my way.
Get out of the way.
Come on.
Hey, yikes, he says. You're putting a wheel on me, man.
Well, he's in the way. I can't help it. Again, this is.
What's cool is this really is completely open world. There are puzzles to solve. There are enemies to defeat. There are levels. You have bosses.
Yep.
Ultimately, you're going to want to defeat Ganon again, I guess.
Yeah. So what's great about this is comparing the first game, there are those who speedrun this game and able to defeat the final boss within half an hour.
Yeah, but that's no fun because you're missing all the cool stuff like building a vehicle. You're building a car.
Well, I'm not quite there yet. I need something to actually propel it.
So this does remind me of Minecraft. You have redstone-like things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, the only problem is I didn't do a good job.
Is it attached?
No, I'm not attaching it to the wheel, Burke. Thank you.
There. Oh, it's a giant fan.
Yeah. No.
Oh, you've made a fan boat.
There we go.
Look at that.
That's the problem. I don't know how to steer it. I haven't figured that out yet.
We haven't learned the steering wheel action yet.
Oh, could you blow wind into it?
What are you doing with your... you turn it on.
If it works. It's not working.
It's not going anywhere.
No, I think I need to make it a little bit bigger, but...
You need a bigger fan. But that was a good example of this stuff. And now it's raining, so there's lightning.
Yeah.
So that's why you were worried about that.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Do you end up building a house and shelter, or mostly it's just wandering around and
You're
playing
just
with
wandering around. You're finding random... not random, but like things that keep popping up. Like there's this thing here.
What is that?
I don't know.
So this happens a lot in this game where there's a thing. And you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, pretty much.
It looks like it was a balloon. You popped it. That's your energy level. Oh, you're so tired.
Yeah, very tired.
You're running along.
But there are, like I said, there are a lot of things you can do. I'm going to actually show a better example of some of the things you can do.
You see what a big world. It's not infinite, right?
No, it's not infinite. I mean, it is an open world game. There is a limit to like what you can explore set by the game.
Right.
But I'm going to go somewhere.
What's interesting about this is it's kind of a kiddie game, but it's not.
No.
And a lot of adults play it, but I think it's appropriate for younger people to play it too.
Game,
yeah, you've been playing it since 1996.
Yeah, that was my first one, yeah.
96. How old were you?
I was 7.
But the graphics have come along.
Oh, miles.
This is 1080p graphics.
Yeah, this is 1080p right now. I don't know with the OLED version, but
yeah, there's a newer version of this Switch
Yeah.
which has an OLED screen. It's quite beautiful.
yeah, I'm actually going to go in here, kind of show an example of some of the things you can do. Hopefully, I don't know which one this is, but one of the things with
Is
this
this a
game.
quest you're on?
No, so one of the things with this game is there are these called shrines you can visit.
Yeah.
And there are different things you could do that has like a puzzle element to it. So essentially you can visit these different shrines to solve a puzzle that has like a theme to it. And for example, right here, I don't know, 8 from above.
Oh,
so
now I'm figuring you don't want to walk into that laser. Oh, you jumped right over it. All right.
So we're just jumping. And yeah, these shrines have like different elements.
There's a lot of puzzles. Some things you have to actually solve with logic. Sometimes with, in this case, dexterity. And I guess there's a little logic to that step.
Yeah, and then there are kind of new things you can do. For example, I can ascend to this little platform here.
Oh, nice. Right through the bottom.
Yeah. And then, yeah, see, that's what happens.
What's fun about these games is the exploration. There's a lot of it.
Yeah,
it's kind of endless. Yeah, you could speed run it. It wouldn't be hard. In fact, if you look online, there's already guides that give you every step of the way what you need to do. But this is really more about exploring and having fun. It's not super violent. There are enemies, but I think it's really the kind of there's something about these games that are really attractive because
no.
Oh
So
boy.
I need, so this is like a puzzle. You have to kind of do things kind of quickly.
Can you go up through the bottom of that?
That's what I'm doing.
You can.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Pop
That's
out
a
like
good
that.
tool. Did you find that lying around?
When you get to that point, Leo, you'll have access.
One day, Leo.
Someday, when I grow up,
Yeah.
I will have access to go through the bottom of a floor.
Now I've already done this one, so nothing cool happens. But I just leave. Yeah.
Hey, cool. John Ashley is the guy who produces this show. So this is the first time we put him on camera.
Well, on camera, but you hear me every now and then.
You hear him.
Yeah.
But it's really nice to see you. I didn't realize you were so tall. Next time I want an apple box, okay?
Yeah.
That might be good. We have one.
No, kidding. It's really great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be kind of fun to see what all the noise is about. And it's a great game. If you have a Switch, probably everybody who has a Switch has Zelda. I mean, I know when Breath of the Wild came out, it was the first game I got when I got a Switch.
That was the same here.
Yep. And I think everybody's going to want the new Zelda. Came out on Friday. Already, according to OpenCritic, the best video game of all time. And by the way, it ain't about the great graphics. It's about play. It's about the gameplay.
It's all about the experience. And I think just most people think this would be a good experience. The one main thing with this game, which I totally understand, is your weapons here, they have a durability to it. So you can use it.
They wear out.
They wear out.
Yeah.
And for some people that can, be a turnoff for the game because, people like having certain play styles that they want to stick through.
Can you repair them?
You can. I believe in this version you can repair them. You can add things to it. So for example,
some games, as things wear out, you can bring them back to the forge, and you can fix them.
I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm sure there's a way,
bet you can.
But like in the previous version, once a weapon is broken, it's broken.
Oh, well, that's no fun.
No,
but you kind of get attached to the pink axe or the sturdy thick stick.
What's kind
there are lots of sturdy thick sticks around though.
Yeah,
never have to worry about those.
No,
and they're actually pretty good.
Yeah, I can't show an example. For example, what's great about
what
this?
Are these porcupines?
Don't touch them. No, I don't want to touch them. No. But what's great about this is you can actually attach things to weapons now. For example, I have a sword that has a rock.
Build things.
Yeah, you can.
Is there in-game merch that you can buy?
In-game merch, probably from. You're talking about within the game? Or?
Well, see, one of the things I don't like about these games is the loot box mechanics of some games.
No.
They don't do this, and I like that about Nintendo. They aren't trying to grab your money.
No, I mean there is downloadable content. They've been dabbling in that more recently, which is fine.
And this is not an inexpensive game. This is a $70 game, I think.
This is the first Nintendo game where it is a $70 game. They actually just priced it up for this game. This is the first time they're doing this. It used to be $59.99 otherwise.
Right. Yeah, they've gone up $10 on the game.
Yeah, I mean we're gonna see that with PlayStation games and Xbox games.
You could have thousands of hours of gameplay.
Yeah. Or you could be like some people and beat the game within 90 minutes.
And then go back and see what you missed.
I mean, I don't think I could ever beat this game in 90 minutes.
John Ashley Go back to work. Stop playing games.
No, bye, Leo.
What are you going to do with your life? You're going to grow up and be a game player?
Bye.
Thank you. We'll let him go back to his game. Does that look like fun? Would you play that?
I would play that. Now that I know that it's open world and you can make things, those are the kinds of games I like.
Me too.
The crafting, building, making.
I think more and more games have a building mechanic in them. Even Fortnite, which is basically about shooting things, there's a lot of building going on. I think Minecraft maybe kind of established.
Yeah, they realized that there was something to that.
Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the highest rated game of all time on OpenCritic. It's only been out for 3 days, 2 days really. And let's agree to the cookies. And Metacritic's highest rated game of 2023. And I think it deserves it. There's a lot of nostalgia for the character. That's part of it as well. But I think it deserves it. Let's do that video. Well, let me see. What time is it? You know what? Let me do one more ad.
Sounds good.
And then we'll do our video call. The ad is for us. I call this our begging ad.
Here, I'll get the alms plate.
But actually, it's really more of a pride ad for me. You've seen it. It's written on our wall. If you ever visit the studio, we sneak you in, you'll see it. Our mission statement. TWiT is dedicated to building a highly engaged community of tech enthusiasts, that's you, by offering them the knowledge they need to understand and use technology in today's world. That's really what we're all about. It's the news shows, the help shows, the how-to shows, the review shows. All of the shows we do are really aimed to build a community of tech enthusiasts and give them that information they need. Now, that's a good thing for you as an advertiser. If that's an audience you're trying to reach, I would like to invite you, my personal invitation, to come to us and help us build a marketing plan to introduce your good or service to our highly qualified audience. Now, we understand our audience better than anybody. And one of the things we do is we make the introduction. We don't pitch them. We don't trick them. When we do our ads, we talk about features and benefits. And I or our hosts like Micah and Ant and Jason introduce you to our audience with ads we think really work. In fact, we have a lot of evidence they work better than any other kind of advertising you can buy. TWiT, we have host-read, they call them host-read ads. We're the tech experts. We're trusted. And people know that we have a lot of integrity. We don't do ads for anything we don't believe in, we don't care about. According to Nielsen, 56% of podcast listeners pay more attention when a host does the ad. They trust us. They trust what we're telling them, right? We pride ourselves in delivering information that's relevant to our audience. 72% of our listeners have a job function directly related to technology. 87% are making IT and tech decisions. 87%. And they're top earners. 66% of our audience earns over $100,000 a year. 23%, twice that. So that is, together, that's 89% of our audience over $100K a year. It's a highly qualified audience, but it's also an intelligent audience. And they listen to what we say, and they analyze it, and they think about it, and they can be a great customer for your business. We also pride ourselves, over time, Lisa has built a team to take care of you as an advertiser. We really pride ourselves in what we do. We've got a continuity department, second to none, Viva and Sebastian and Debbie. We've got a great sales team with Max and Ryan and Lisa. And when you come to us direct, we give you benefits nobody else offers. A full service continuity team, which will do your copywriting. They'll help you with graphics, on-screen graphics and things like that. We put our ads in, they're embedded. They're not inserted after the fact. They're part of the show. And we make a unique ad every single time, just like this. This is a different ad every single time, right? We guarantee over delivery on impressions. You will always get at least the impressions you're buying. Onboarding services and detailed reporting come to you free of charge if you're a direct client. Courtesy commercials are available. We make, like this commercial, we could chop it up. You could put it on your socials. You could put it on your landing pages. Other free gifts like mentions in our newsletter, sent out to thousands of listeners. We've got recession bonuses, social media promotion, value ads. We like to put you on other shows too to introduce you to a broader audience at no cost to you. It really works. You just heard me do an ad for the Canary. Thinks Canary's founder Haroon Meer said, unsolicited, by the way, thank you, Haroon, for this quote, "We expected Twit to work well for us because we were longtime listeners who over the years bought many of the products and services we learned about on various shows. And we were not disappointed. The combination of the very personal ad reads, the careful selection of products that Twit believes in, gives the ads an authentic, trusted voice that works really well for products like ours." Thank you, Haroon. He said 10 out of 10 we'll use again. Haroon's been we've had Things on for a long, long time. They've been a great sponsor. And that's one thing you'll see is a lot of the sponsors you'll see again and again. Audible's been a sponsor for more than a decade. Why? Because it works. Because it really works. Our listeners are highly intelligent, heavily engaged, tech savvy. So if you're ready to elevate your brand, I want to invite you to visit twit.tv/advertise and launch your campaign today. It's a really, I think, a great opportunity to break out of the norm, grow your brand. Let us do an authentic, genuine introduction of your product or service to our highly qualified audience. twit.tv/advertise. Okay? I'm going to put away the begging bowl. I like to do this because I think I'm really proud of what we've done here, and the team Lisa's built, and our hosts and everybody. And I really want people to take advantage of that. So please, okay. Let us do the video. Did we get John Ashley away from Zelda?
I think so. I don't hear any more chimes of rupees going into bags.
Let's do the video question we got.
Hi, Leo and Micah. I'm hoping you can help. I am looking to reduce the rate of my cell phone plan. I've had AT&T for 20 years, not paying a horrible amount, $60 or so a month, including tax. I use about 3 gig of data a month because I'm mainly on Wi-Fi. Keep looking at the MVNOs, specifically Mint Mobile. And for some reason, I'm always a little weird about going to the MVNO route. Is it something I should be okay with? Also, I'm an iPhone user. Is there anything I need to watch out for, features I may or may not get on the MVNO that I would get on somebody like AT&T?
Great question. Did he say what his name was? John. And did he say where he was emailing from? All right. Thank you, John. We got to say Mint Mobile's a sponsor.
Yes.
You're paying 4 times what you would pay at Mint Mobile for the same service. But there are caveats with MVNOs, mobile virtual network operators. These are people who buy. See, really, there are only a few nationwide cellular networks. There's T-Mobile/Sprint. There's AT&T. There's Verizon. There's US Cellular. There might be 1 or 2 others, but there are only a handful of them. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to be a Mint, you go to somebody, in this case T-Mobile, and say, I want to buy connectivity wholesale and sell it to customers retail. Now, it's interesting because you pay 4 times more to T-Mobile for the same service. So there are a couple of things that they do with the MVNOs. One of the reasons that T-Mobile does is, by the way, they're now trying to buy Mint.
I think yeah.
I don't think it's gone through yet, but they're trying to buy Mint. They made an offer, Mint accepted, but I think there's regulatory stuff. It's kind of like when you go to an outlet and you buy a fashion brand, the fashion brands don't want to sell at a discount in their store because they consider it depreciates their value.
Right.
So Ralph Lauren either opens an outlet store or goes to some unknown brand and says, can you unload these? We've got extra shirts. That way it doesn't hurt their brand. It doesn't lower the value of their brand. It's kind of like that for an MVNO. These networks are huge and they have a lot of extra capacity. Mm-hmm. They don't want to increase the number of their customers, but they want to sell off their excess capacity. So they do to an MVNO. It means you get a great deal, just as you would if you went to an outlet store. You get a much better deal. In this case, you'd be paying 1/4 of what you pay for exactly the same service, except, and these are the contractual exceptions an MVNO makes when it goes to a cellular carrier. The cellular carrier says, okay, but if a network node gets congested, a cell site gets congested, our customers are going to get priority over your customers. Mm-hmm. I've never experienced this in all the years I've used Mint and other MVNOs. But in theory, if you were on a congested cell site, you might get slower bandwidth. I've never experienced a call being hung up or anything like that. I think in theory that could happen. T-Mobile will say, all right, Mint, but if it's congested, T-Mobile customers get priority. So that's one thing. Again, I think it's a theoretical problem that doesn't really happen. The other problem for Mint is if you travel internationally. T-Mobile has a great kind of international presence. You don't pay extra for this. You're able to make calls. You're able to get data to a certain point internationally without additional cost. You don't get that with Mint. So if you like to travel, Mint's not a good choice. I think it's probably U.S., Canada. You should check. Maybe Mexico too, but you wouldn't want to go to Europe with Mint because you'd have to make some other arrangement. Mm-hmm. As far as I know, those are the only two negatives. That's not bad.
Yeah, I will say not with Mint specifically, but I remember my grandmother using a different MVNO.
She probably used the one that you Straight Talk, the one that you get at Walmart.
Something like that, yeah. And the customer service center was different from the one that it actually ran on, and the customer service was subpar in comparison. So you want to sort of look at reviews of their customer service as well.
Mint's is excellent, I have to say. Straight Talk, which is widely sold in Walmart, and they will, by the way, they do deals with all three major carriers. You can get Verizon, you can get T-Mobile, you can get AT&T. But I'm not sure about exactly the customer service.
Yeah, it was sketchy for her.
Was that me? That probably was me. I'm going to mute whatever that was. So that's something to pay attention to. I've used Mint for 4 years now without any problem. So I think that's fine. I think you'd be happy with it as long as you understand those limitations, right? That was a great question. Thank you, John. I'm
sure a lot of people wonder, well, should I switch to one of those other options?
And this is, by the way, an example of, we sell ads for Mint, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be completely honest at all times about all of our advertisers. That's part of the deal, right? And that's what they want.
One other thing too, a lot of them, including Mint, have offers for you to try out their service. So give it a try and see what you think about it even before you make the switch.
Yeah. There are a lot of them. Wikipedia, thank you, Matthew, in our chat room has given me a list of, on Wikipedia, United States MVNOs. And there are quite a few of them. Republic Wireless is another one. There's some I've never heard of. Armed Forces Wireless, Assist Wireless. So you could see a list here. And you'll see if you go to this Wikipedia page, this is very useful. Thank you. The various issues, what their caps are, things like that, international service, things like that. So this is a very helpful way to choose the MVNO you want. You got some email
questions?
Do some email.
Let's see about an email question. All right. Here's another fun one. This one comes from Lucas. Lucas writes, I've been trying to run Linux on my HP 14-inch Pavilion, specifically Manjaro GNOME. And I've been having problems with frames dropping.
Say that again?
Isn't it GNOME?
Yeah, I just like how you say it.
Okay, it's not. We don't just
Manjaro
say GNOME.
GNOME.
Right? Manjaro
just
GNOME.
Manjaro, yeah. Manjaro lets you use different desktop. We were talking about those desktop environments, and no, it's spelled GNOME. It's from the GNU people, GNU. I've been saying GNOME. I've heard people say, what do you say? Chat room, GNOME or GNOME? Ant, what do you say? GNOME? Ant says GNOME. What do you say, GNOME? Like Alaska? Okay, we're going to say GNOME.
I like GNOME. It's fun.
I like GNOME
it
too.
Sounds fun.
I've always said GNOME.
I like how it feels too.
GNOME.
Anyway, they're being very specific.
It depends on what you know.
If
you know, it's GNOME.
They've been having trouble with frames dropping on streamed videos like YouTube. Tried looking for answers online, couldn't figure it out, blah, blah, blah. Would love to make the switch to Linux full time, but that's an issue that's holding them back. Is there an easy way to make video frames not drop? And how can a Linux GNoob like them figure it out?
I'm a GNoob.
So yeah, Lucas is having frame dropping issues. Is that going to be a driver issue with their screen?
Well, so one of the things, some distributions, some Linux people are purists, and they say, thou shalt not use any proprietary drivers. Everything must be open source. Richard Stallman of the GNU Foundation would say, or the GNU Foundation would say that. Everything must be open source. And some distributions are very finicky about that. Manjaro is an example of a distribution that gives you a choice. So when you first install it, you can install it with or without proprietary drivers. If you have an NVIDIA video card, for instance, you want the proprietary drivers because the open source drivers are for NVIDIA, but the NVIDIA drivers are very good. So you want the proprietary drivers. Pop! OS also gives you that option. Some Linux distributions are not so adamant about it has to be open and free. So look at non-free or proprietary drivers. If you make sure you have the right driver for your video card. Of course, it could be a bandwidth issue, but if it's only happening on Linux on the same box and you have Windows on the same box and it's not happening, it could also be a bad network driver. And again, this is a really good example. There are Intel Wi-Fi cards, for instance, that don't have open drivers. You have to use a proprietary driver. So it's probably a driver either for your network card, your Wi-Fi, or your video. And almost always you can fix that by just some searching around. This is where the community is really a very big help.
Yes.
Frankly, I would go to, there is a Manjaro forum on Reddit, Reddit.r/Manjaro. I would go there and be as clear and precise as you can in your description of your problem. Put up a video if you've got one, and I bet you'll find an answer very, very quickly.
Beautiful. I love this next question from Robbie. Robbie says, I have 2 kids, 10 and 8, and I'm looking for options to get them into programming. I've heard lots of benefits as well as I think it could get them an early start into a promising career path, but I don't know what language to have them learn. Are there any good books you recommend? I know they may be out of date. I've had them play with Scratch and they like it pretty well, but didn't know if this is a good starting point. They are kids, so anything with sounds and bright pictures and making it like a game is best. They have a PC and we have a Chromebook and an iPad. So lots of different options. I would say with that iPad, definitely give them the opportunity to try. And now I'm forgetting the name of it.
The Swift Playgrounds.
Swift Playgrounds
are really amazing. Well, in theory, you could design a program that you could actually put in the App Store on Swift Playgrounds. But I think that's a good start. It's kind of like Scratch. Scratch is an excellent start. There's also something called Alice from Carnegie Mellon University. These are kind of graphical user interface programming tools. And the theory being, especially your younger child, they're probably, if it's too much text, too much typing, it's going to be out of reach. But if it's just drag and drop, and they can learn a lot of fundamental programming concepts, control structures, branching, things like that, that will then transfer to a later text-based programming language. So Alice, Scratch, which is actually Scratch is a kind of small talk. It's actually pretty impressive. And Swift Playgrounds are very good starts. There's a wonderful book that I've recommended in the past called If Your Kids Are Playing Minecraft. This is a great book. It's called Learn to Program with Minecraft. It's from No Starch Press. I interviewed Craig when the book came out. It's a little old now, unfortunately. I wish he would update it. But it comes with a disk or downloadable software that will work with a Raspberry Pi to set up Windows, Minecraft, and a special driver that lets you program it with Python. And then you follow along in the book. And of course, it's Minecraft, so people love.
I've used this book.
Have you?
Yeah, because I thought it was such a fun way to.
It's
get
so
to learn.
cool.
Yeah.
So one of the first things you do is you build a bridge made out of dynamite.
Yeah.
And then you set it off. It's really fun. You can actually
Very
write
visual.
programs that would build a whole city. You know, and what you're learning there is, with programming, you break it down into small tasks. You build a house. You write the program to build a house, and then you repeat it 20 times. Okay, now I'm going to build a taller house, and so forth and so on. So I really like this. It is a little old. It's probably Python 2 would be my guess, which is out of date. But Craig did a wonderful job, and there are other things out there like this. Oh, no, it says uses Python 3, so that's good news. At least it's the up-to-date Python, which is a good one. So I really like this, but I think your kids are in the right. Swift Playgrounds is so much fun.
Yeah, and it's got the visual little creatures and they walk around. You can make them dance. I mean, there's a lot that's built into it and it's a game that continues to build on itself. So they are purpose built to be these lessons, and as you learn, you kind of continue on with this character, so you feel like you're getting these achievements along the way.
Let me give you the pitch for why it is a good thing for your kids to learn programming. I mean, obviously, that could be your retirement plan. If they become, Bill Gates, you're golden. But there's another reason. It's the same reason. I remember, you probably remember this when you were in high school. Do I have to learn algebra? When am I going to ever use algebra?
Yeah, for me, it was trigonometry. I'm like,
why would I ever need to use this? Why would I? Maybe I'm not going to be a coder. Why would I? And this is the reason you learn math, and I think the reason to learn coding. It teaches you how to think. And that's a skill. You learned Latin, right?
Yes,
I learned Latin.
Yes.
People say, why would I ever learn a language nobody speaks? Because it's a foundation for all future language learning, right?
Absolutely.
And it's the same thing with math and coding. It teaches you how to take a problem, break it down, solve it in chunks, really approach it. And I think it's a really valuable tool. Now, they may love coding. And if that's the case, it's the best, most fun game ever is writing your own software. There is a curriculum based on the language one of the languages I really like called Racket for high schools. Let me see if I can find this. I interviewed the creator of this. He's at Brown University. And it's for high schools to, in a way, add to the math program with a high school with some coding involved. And they're so committed to this. They have free classes for teachers. They have a Congress, kind of a Congress every year that everybody gets together. It's incredible. And I just can't remember the name of it. Let me see if I can find it. Well, I'll have to do some searching. It was back in the day. I did a triangulation with the creator of this, but I'm a big fan. This is for older kids. This would be later. I think if you got them started with these basics,
what it is. Get them started.
Once they get to high school, if they're not learning on their own, maybe this would be the.
It's the same way that teaching kids languages is so much easier than teaching those of us whose neuronic pathways are more cement in place. So
that's why you do it when you're a kid, because you have a plastic brain.
It's a compliment, I swear.
Oh gosh, I'm mad at myself because I've quoted this many, many times, and I just can't remember off the top of my head. Oh well, it'll come to me, and I'll put it in the show notes. I'll get John Ashley to put it in the show notes. But if you're a teacher, especially if you're a math teacher, this is a great way to introduce some programming into the math curriculum in high school. That really does. You're learning a very powerful language, very powerful tool. It's really excellent. You got one more?
Yeah, actually, and I think this is a great question that I think won't take us too long to answer. It says, and we don't have a name here, but it says, continue to love the, oh wait, here we go. I have a Mac Mini M1. It boots very fast to the login screen. Then I must sit there and wait for the computer to accept my keyboard entries. Why? Why boot fast just to make you wait? And now I've got Ant throwing up his hands in the air, which tells me that he feels the same way.
Ant's been. How's that Mac move been going for you?
I still like it.
You like it?
Right there still bugs me.
So
I just want to put in my password.
Yeah, almost certainly, and I'll see the response from Ant here. It is because you're using a Bluetooth keyboard as opposed to a USB keyboard. And the problem is that the Bluetooth radio takes a moment to get going. And it doesn't happen for some reason until after you get to that login screen. So I've had this happen before, and what's annoying about it is that sometimes it feels intermittent. Sometimes it seems like it connects quickly. I can log in, it's going, and I think it's all about battery preservation, and depending on what cycle the keyboard is, whether it's awake and communicating with the computer, and if the computer is, has the radio connection back to it. And so if you really want to be able to type something in as quickly as you possibly can, you have a Mac Mini. That means that Mac Mini is not going anywhere. It's a stationary device. So having a keyboard that's at all times plugged in is not really an issue. It's of course a different story with a laptop that's moving around with you. And of course the keyboard's already built in. That's why you don't experience it if you're using something like a laptop, because the keyboard that's built into the laptop is not connected via Bluetooth. So you've got that direct connection. So I suggest it shouldn't have to be this way. 100% agree. But plugging in that keyboard and just having that always plugged in will give you that ability to log in. For me, I'm just aware of the fact that it does this, that the Bluetooth takes a minute to connect. So I just wait for it. Basically, I'll just hit that space bar a few times. I'll wait a second, hit the space bar. Then I see that connection take place. I can type in my password and log in. It's annoying. I wish that the Bluetooth fired up faster, but I think it's also, if you looked at it in comparison to how some other machines will boot up, they're getting to that screen as quick as they can. When if they would just let it take a little bit longer to boot and then fire up that Bluetooth radio sooner, you probably wouldn't even notice. But because it gets to that screen so fast and you're going, well, let me get to the next stage, then that's why that happens. And then this second question, and Leo, you've talked before about drive formats, and that's why I think this is great for you to answer. The person says, I want to clone 2 Macs. Can I use the same external hard drive? Should I use an SSD to do it? And then what drive format do you recommend? And then the last question is, how do I determine the size of the drive needed? We'll get to that in a moment, but I want to clone 2 Macs. I'm assuming this means that they want to take everything off of 2 Macs and put them onto an external drive.
There's 2 programs. One's called Carbon Copy Cloner. A lot of people love this, but I've used for years Super Duper from Shirt Pocket Software. Both of them essentially work the same way. You can get an external drive. It has to be the same size as actually it doesn't. It has to be the same size as the amount of data on the internal drive you want to back up.
Yeah,
I mean,
bigger,
I would just get the same size, right? Or bigger. And then you run Super Duper internally, and it will make a bootable sector by sector copy of that internal drive on an external drive, which you can then, if you wish, store, save as a backup, move to another computer. You can even use it to boot your computer. Now, it's a little tricky in the more recent versions of Mac OS because they've got a whole weird process that they've done where they've created a boot partition and a data partition, and the boot partition has to be blessed by Apple and so forth. But I think that Carbon Copy Cloner and Super Duper have both
figured it out,
solved this. So either one would be great. They are the equivalent of ghosting. Norton Ghost is the program we used for years on Windows for the Macintosh. I mean, there are imaging programs that will image Macintosh, but Super Duper and Carbon Copy Cloning run under Mac OS. They know about Mac OS. They're smart about it. They know about this blessing problem. So those are the 2 I would recommend. You don't have to worry about file format. It's just going to make it exactly the same. Eventually, everybody who uses a Mac will be using the new Mac Apple file format, APFS. And so you'll probably be using APFS.
Yep. And as far as determining the size of the drive you need, just click on that Apple logo in the top left corner, choose About This Mac, and then choose More Info. And then you can see the storage space that you need. But you can kind of just base it on whatever the size is of your hard drive in total, because then you at least know that you'll have enough space. So if you've got a 1 terabyte hard drive, even if you're not taking up all of that space, you might as well get a 1 terabyte external hard drive to move that to. And if you're trying to clone multiple, I don't know if Carbon Copy Cloner or Super Duper, and you might, would let me say plug it in one hard drive. I plug it in the MacBook Air. I make that copy onto that external SSD, and then I go and plug it into my Mac Pro or whatever, and also make a clone. Can I have them both on that same external hard drive?
Super Duper wants to erase the drive, but I think there's a way to make an ISO style image on that drive. I know there is with Carbon Copy Cloner. Maybe this is the one to use, is Carbon Copy Cloner. Do, by the way, download them from the creator, not from, I notice Super Duper's all over places like Softonic. Don't get them from third-party download sites. Get them from the manufacturer. In the case of Carbon Copy Cloner, it's Bombich, BOMBICH.com. This has been around forever. And I think they now have solved this issue of the APFS file systems.
Yeah, it's a little finicky, but if you read through everything, all the pop-ups that come up, then you'll see what you're supposed to do.
I'm having trouble finding Super Duper. I wonder if they're
I
still
saw
around.
Retcon in the chat said that he had to make the switch over to CCC, to Carbon Copy Cloner.
Shirt Pocket. Is Shirt Pocket out of business? It's shirt-pocket.com. No, they still make Super Duper. Super Duper 3.75 includes support for Ventura. That's what you want. It's got a little complicated. In both cases, they're free versions and paid versions. Highly recommend them. I think we've done everything we needed to do.
I think we have.
Everything that was on our
played
agenda.
the games.
Yeah.
We've answered the questions. We've taken the
Yeah.
calls.
Yes. So I think it's time to say goodbye to all our family. We're so glad that you joined us this week. If you have a question or if we didn't get to you, email us, atg@twit.tv. We love it if you send video or audio. You can record audio. Just do it on your phone. Do say your name and the city you're calling from, your first name and city, because we like to know. I don't know why. I have a little map. I put pins in it. It's just
yeah. You should see it. It's huge.
Yeah. But I just like to know. Again, that email address, atg@twit.tv. The Zoom is going to continue next week, call.twit.tv. We may also have a phone number.
Yes.
We will eventually. And I should explain that the phone number will be available all week for voicemail. So it's going to be another way that you can leave an audio message for us, which I'm excited about. We also want to make it easy. We realize a lot of the people who used to listen to the radio show are kind of baffled by this call.twit.tv. So a phone number is the easiest thing to do. So we're going to have that. We're working on it. It's been
Follow us on social media. We might have an update for you.
We'll promote it as soon as that number is available. If you want to watch us live, we do the show on the air live as we used to do the radio show at live.twit.tv. There's audio and video. It's every Sunday. We start around 11 Pacific. Let's just say 11 o'clock. We're usually here by 11, and it takes us a little while to get going. 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 p.m. Eastern. That's 1800 UTC. We stream until about 1:30 Pacific time, 4:30 Eastern time, and we love getting calls in that live time frame. If you're watching live, chat with us live at irc.twit.tv. And don't forget, Club Twit members get extra special access in our Club Twit Discord. They can watch live. They can talk to us live. And we haven't set this up yet, but I would like to also add the ability for them to ask us questions directly during the live show. The Club Twit really helps us keep this show on the air. And all the shows we do, including Micah's Hands on Mac, Hands on Windows with Paul Thurrott. Ant just did a great Ask Me Anything with my friend Alex Wilhelm. We do lots of special events. Our community manager, Ant Pruitt's done a great job there. And that $7 a month helps us keep our shows on the air and develop new ones. We just launched This Week in Space out of the club. Home Theater Geeks with Scott Wilkinson is back, thanks to club members. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get special shows we don't put out in public. You get access to the Discord. I think it's a great deal. It's $7 a month. If you want to join, we've got individual memberships, family memberships, and corporate memberships, all at twit.tv/clubtwit. After the fact, even if you're not a Club Twit member, you can download free versions of the shows, ad-supported, at our website, twit.tv/ATG. Yes, techguylabs.com still works. And when you're there, by the way, at the website, you can subscribe. There's a link to all the different big-name podcast applications, but also you can search for it in any podcast application. Look for Ask the Tech Guys. That way you'll get the current show, not the Tech Guys show, because that's not getting updated. Actually, it's the same feed.
I think it's the same feed.
Same feed. So actually, you could look for the Tech Guy as well and subscribe, and that way you'll get it automatically whenever it's done. You like dope shoes? You like the shoes? Yeah, these are the old Screensaver shoes. I thought I'd wear them to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Screensavers and call for help. Thank you, Micah Sargent.
Thank you,
Love
Leo.
doing this show with you. I missed you last week.
I'm happy to be back.
But I want you to go home, and I want you to bring all your batteries with you.
Yeah.
Just as an experiment.
No. Just to see. That's why I'm going home, truly. So I can test the lithium ion.
We thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Ask the Tech Guys. Have a great Geek Week.
Bye-bye.
If you love all things Android, well, I've got a show for you to check out. It's called All About Android, and I'll give you 3 guesses what we talk about. We talk about Android, the latest news, hardware, apps. We answer feedback. It's me, Jason Howell, Ron Richards, WinTwit Dow, and a whole cast of awesome characters talking about the operating system that we love. You can find All About Android at twit.tv/AAA.